In 5, 4, 3. Hey guys, Nick Campbell here, and with me as always is
David Steele.
And we are
Rhythm and Wit.
All
yeah,
right.
This is the Rhythm and Wit Podcast, episode 42, I think.
Ooh, wow. Lucky number 42.
I like it.
This is the podcast where we discuss and explore creative and artistic expressions of artists and performers in Oklahoma City and beyond Oklahoma City.
Can I point out something real quick before
Yeah.
we jump into everything?
Yeah,
42 is the number.
it's a lucky.
We've talked about this. How long? 6 months or something like that. It'd be like, oh, we got to get you on the podcast.
Oh, interesting.
We've been talking about this for a
yeah,
while.
Yeah.
But this is the one that it works out on.
Weird. Or you
Hitchhiker's
can-
Guide to the Galaxy is one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
And the answer to
Oh,
life,
okay.
universe, and everything
Is
is 42. And I have a tattoo on my wrist that says "Don't Panic," which is the whole thing of hitchhikers.
So what's magic about 42?
There's not.
It's just lucky to. So, anyways,
I'm just saying that it lines up
Yeah.
that
Oh, nice.
42 is part of that movie. It's
yeah,
it's
so
my
special to
jam.
you, which
Yeah.
you are, John Shack, the magician. Welcome. Thanks. Sorry, we just wanted to introduce everyone before, but yeah, 42. Fascinating. Yeah, this is. But you're also very interested in numbers in general, right? You love numbers with your magic and stuff like that.
Sure.
too.
I think I portray that sometimes.
Okay, so
I'm not
maybe
much of a math dude.
Okay, I thought you were. So you had some math magic. I've seen you do.
Yeah. It's fake.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
It's fake.
Well, but that makes sense because I think, I've always wondered how. I don't know. That's an interesting trick. I assumed it was either really an interesting math equation or maybe not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Well, so, hey, you're with us now, John Shack, magician / comedian.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something I like about you a lot is that
try
you
my
are
best.
very funny.
I try my best.
Yeah, you do a great job. We had you on the Put a Cork in It last year
Yep.
Yeah.
during our prom show,
Mhm.
and you did a great job. And then introduced you to Micah and Jess,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then you were able to actually put on your own show out there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we had talked about it initially, right after your show, and then they never emailed me. They're busy. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
they're busy.
but they never emailed me. So I finally just reached out to them and I was like, hey, remember the guy that performed at that one show that you said you liked and gave free wine to? And
Yeah.
so we just worked it out, and now we have
Nice.
a monthly thing that we're
Yeah.
doing.
What's it called again?
It's Magic and Merlot.
Yeah.
And it's essentially just a showcase full of local magicians.
Mhm.
It'd be nice to bring in some other guys at some point in
Yeah,
time.
because I'm sure there are traveling people that go from different states and do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, you buy a ticket, you get a glass of wine with your ticket, so
Mhm.
so that at least covers a little bit of the expense
Yeah.
of the night.
Yeah, I
and
think
then-
that's a great thing to offer, honestly, because it feels like you're adding as a customer. You're like, oh well, I don't have to buy at least one thing,
Sure.
because it's usually the opposite. But you have to buy a ticket and they make you buy one thing.
Right.
But yeah. So something about that, you front the money. You're entirely fronting everything for that show.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you're finding these other talents. Did you say they're local?
Most of
of
the
them are
people are local. As
Mm-hmm.
of yet, everyone that I've had is from metro area and stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah.
People that I've had relationships
Yeah.
with for a long time. And
Which is that was fascinating to me because I went to the last show you did. You had me there to photograph, and there was obviously there was three of you.
yeah,
right, on
each
that
one is
show.
3 magicians.
So
yeah.
that was a great. But there were at least 3 or 4 other magicians there that were
Correct.
hanging out. Like they do at the comedy show too, right?
Yeah.
But they're probably going to be on the future show, so they want to
Yeah.
go there and check
Or
it
they've
out.
already been on a show.
Yeah, but to me, it was just so cool to see. It's like, oh man, there's a lot of people. There's a magic community here, just right here in Oklahoma City,
Yeah.
that are people just like comedy that are out there practicing and learning from each other, I imagine, too, in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good opportunity because, I mean, we talked about this a little bit outside and stuff,
Yeah.
but a lot of these guys don't really have the opportunity to perform as much as they would like.
There's not like a bunch of like comedy showcases for Magic. That's why
Right.
I noticed that I love that you're putting that on because you are offering that opportunity to those people.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, and I mean, it gives them a shot to
Yeah.
perform in front of people that they don't normally perform in
Yeah,
front of.
new
I mean, maybe they
audience.
book something off the back of it.
Right,
You know? Like
yeah.
there's always that possibility. But then on top of that, like I'm hiring photographers. I'm shooting video the whole time that we're there, so they're getting
Yeah, they get
assets out of the deal. So that's cool.
That's what I've always liked about offering. Whenever you started doing your Lively, no, was it Lively?
Lively was the first one. Yeah.
Those are the showcases he was doing every month, and I was barely like I had practiced photography years ago, but not I was pretty still amateur level back then, and so I was like, well, let me just go there and start practicing, and I wasn't charging him or whatever in the beginning too. He started giving me money after a little bit, but it was like I just wanted to do it to practice, but it did add value to your shows for the comedians because they got some decent shots out of it. So.
Yeah.
Well, they actually a lot of
Yeah.
people's headshots are his
Oh, yeah.
pictures from the shows.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
it's a way to give them the ability to have that because a lot of people can't. And
because
but it also shows people what the show is about.
Yeah. Right.
And it gives other people the opportunity to share pictures. It was something that was kind of weird to me when I first started. I was like, how come nobody's recording and taking pictures of themselves during this? You work all week getting your stuff together, and then you kind of want to put it out there,
Well, I mean, I guess for comedians too, though, a lot of the times if you are recording that footage, it's more for personal
Right.
review, so you
Sure.
can improve your act
Right.
and that kind of thing. And maybe you take clips or whatever. That's been really popular, especially on like TikTok and things, is to take crowd work clips or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's value to that for sure. But but again, like a lot of these guys, they don't have enough footage to put together a demo reel or to have that headshot or anything like that. So to give them that in a performance setting where ideally they're doing something that's visually attractive, like Cassidy at this last show, he did the cups and balls, which is like the oldest trick in Magic. Literally, there's hieroglyphics of this trick being performed.
Really? That's awesome.
He did that trick and beautifully. He did a classic version of it, executed really well and everything like that. And they're a very striking photo that you got with him like looking over these cups intently and everything. And there's like the audience kind of blurred out a little bit in the background. Beautiful shot.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I like that
Beautiful
one.
shot.
I know exactly what you're talking about because there was a lot of, and that's what I like about the Magic side. What you guys do because it is very old traditional. Like I mean, he had the nice like little cloth and stuff. It's like very I like that look and stuff like that. So yeah, it's cool to keep that alive.
Trying, man, trying.
Well, I think it's
a growing
also
thing.
a really great balance for we're doing comedy there and we're doing Magic.
Yep.
And it's like I'm almost like I love the performative, which and is great because neither really compete with each other. It's like you get two really cool,
different, it's a different
like performances at the same place.
I thought about this actually probably during your show, but the difference between stand up, because I've been to almost every single one of the Nick Campbell shows there, but doing that show, it's like comedy. I don't know. I had a difference between the audience, right? It's like comedy, you don't really feel safe going, not safe in that you're going to get hurt, but it's like there's a possibility that you might get picked on. You know what I mean? Magic is like the opposite. It's like you feel very safe in Magic, but it's like almost you could get picked on, but for like audience participation, but it's like very rare that. You know what I mean? It's like it's a different feeling, I think.
Sure.
But there's also a different payoffs for that.
Sure. And I mean, some people do not want to participate like that.
Yeah.
They just want to watch.
But I think for Magic, it's like you ask, they say no. For comedy, is totally different.
It's more like
you don't have a choice.
This is happening to you. This is happening.
So that's
to you.
why I feel like that difference is like, that's why I say like comedy is a little bit on that. Whereas I think if you're making a choice, if you have a choice between a comedy ticket or a Magic ticket, certain people are gonna be like, no, I don't want to do a comedy show, but I'll do a Magic show, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Just because.
I mean, there's also a lot of stigma.
Right.
With Magic kind of stuff, like I get asked all the time, like, do you do kids parties or something like that? And I'm just like, not really. It's not really my jam.
It's not really. You're not doing Magic for kids. You want to do Magic for everyone.
Sure.
I mean, kids will love it too, but it's more for adults. You know what I mean? Like,
is your show all ages?
Yeah, so technically Put a Cork in It is all ages.
Right.
So you just can't go to the bar, which I didn't really consider the very first show that we did over there. So I made it 21 and up the first time. And then I was like, oh, wait, it is just a wine and beer bar. You know, they don't have anything hard,
like
or
hard
it's not
liquor.
like a club or anything like that. So it's technically all ages. Some folks have brought their younger ones with them. It skews older, and you know, it is technically an adult show, but also, you know, kids are probably hearing way worse things on TikTok. Absolutely. Stuff. And like at school, we went to a skating rink in Yukon one day. And, you know, you got a bunch, 12, 13-year-olds that are there. And my fiance was in the bathroom, and she heard some kids talking about, like, their plug was coming through. Crazy. So, I mean, like, if 12, 13-year-old kids are already talking about that stuff, if I drop an F-bomb at a show, as long as it's not, like, totally gratuitous and vulgar and stuff, then I think it's fine.
Yeah. Well, we've had people who have had kids, and we tell them, like, hey, you can bring your kid, 16, 17. I mean, obviously, if they're pushing a stroller, hey, leave it outside, you know. But but we had a kid come in, and she was probably about 16. Her mom and dad were there, and she had like a great time, and the parents had a good time. But we've also had other where the kid was just like, oh my god, and then they left. So you just really don't know. It depends on the people you get. But we warn them. It's like, it's your kid. You know what they hear. So, I mean, you're more than welcome to see what it's like and go. That's what I tell them.
But no refund, though.
No. So if you don't like the cheeseburger at McDonald's, you don't get the money back.
Sometimes you do get another cheeseburger, though.
Yeah, well, more. What is that old Woody Allen quote? Or I think he quoted it in the movie. But anyways, he goes... what is it?
Wait, I don't know.
Anyways, it's like, oh my god, there's two ladies and they're sitting in a restaurant and they're like, oh my god, this food is terrible. Oh, and there's so little. It's like, well, why would you want more of the worst? Anyways, that was fun. Woody Allen reference. There you go, guys. So let's kind of get into it. I want to kind of get into your history. How long have you been doing Magic altogether?
Practicing, learning, that kind of thing. Interested, whatever, since I was about 3.
What magic tricks did you learn then?
Oh no, I definitely wasn't like performing, but the bugged bit at the time.
Was it like was there like your dad or somebody like that?
No, I'm the only magician in my family.
Or you know what I mean? Like, well, my question was like more of like what was the first magic trick you'd ever seen?
So it was on TV that I saw it the first time. A guy named Lance Burton.
Cool.
And ironically enough, he did a thing where he got buried alive. It was on this like Houdini special where all these magicians were kind of like recreating things that Houdini was famous for. And one of them, they got buried alive, and it was a guy named Lance Burton. And then following that special was his full 1 hour special of just Lance. And he does beautiful magic. He's very sophisticated and funny and kind and just like good old kind of country boy sort of vibe.
Nice.
But he does magic with, doves and things like stereotypical kind of stuff that you think of now. He was doing, in the full coat and tails and everything, like, not exactly like a hipster kind of vibe, like what's happening with David Blaine or something.
Now there's a lot of more different groups of people interested in it too.
Sure.
That are different like styles of magic.
Sure. It was just much more classical, and of course I wanted to do that for the longest time, like figuring out ways to make cards. Here you go.
Yeah, it was
Oh shit. It's live.
Magic.
I've also got this Band-Aid. It's not helping me out.
Oh,
I hurt myself yesterday. I got a little boo-boo. But anyway, I started there and like just getting interested, and then whenever I was 6, I got my first magic kit.
Nice.
It's kind of like the normal, like a lot of magicians kind of have the same sort of experience.
Yeah.
They were just,
You get a little magic. There's probably like the same box that everyone had or something.
Yeah, so I
in a
actually got
way.
a pretty sweet one.
Yeah.
It was the Marshall Brodeen magic kit, and it came with a little like Ken doll and like these miniature like box illusions, like
interesting.
shoving swords through and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. It was just interesting,
Yeah.
you can think of it almost like Legos for magicians,
Oh,
So I had that. I have it still. It's hanging up on
cool.
like
That's-
above my office door.
Did you get anybody with it? Did you like set it up and like?
I definitely used to
trick a few
perform
people?
stuff out of there for
Like
sure.
friends?
Yeah, or my parents or whatever, like just being the most annoying person. Ever. It's just like, hey, let me show you
Anyone.
this thing, because those boxes come with 200 tricks in them or whatever.
cool.
So I got to do all of them.
Yeah. Do you think you learned all 200?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. So the magic set that I have is not the original magic set. Repurchased just for like
okay.
nostalgia purposes.
That's why it was fascinating. It was like, wow, you kept that the whole
Negative skies. But,
that would be awesome.
I wish I did,
yeah.
and that was kind of the impetus for purchasing it again.
Right.
Is like, man,
Yeah,
I wish I still had that.
But you might not be able to repurchase it at some point,
Right.
and that would suck too. It's
the
like
magic of eBay.
yeah.
Magic of eBay.
So you got to get one, while you can at
Yeah.
least. That's awesome.
So that kind of kickstarted the like learning thing, and of course early on in life it was all just like magic kits and stuff like that. But like I didn't grow up from a rich family or anything like that. Like we were actually pretty lower middle class and poor. Like all over that spectrum of things. So I just didn't have any money to purchase things. There's no magic shops around.
Yeah, it's like, where do you go? It's like you can't. There's not like a class or something, or or unless you could. The best way to do it is to find somebody that mentor you. But
And I didn't have anybody. Like,
that's
like,
tough.
Hey, can we bring you down in the headphones a little bit?
You
You're
can
like,
turn yours.
this
The
one
first
here.
one.
But
First one.
as far as like you spiking over both of us, you know what I'm saying? Check 1, 2. Now I'm out. Check 1, 2.
You're gonna have to edit
Give
this
it a
part
check.
out.
Give it a
Check.
There we go.
Check.
It feels all right.
Yeah, I think I'm probably getting a little close, but it'll be all fine in the end. It's not gonna be. It'll balance out. I'll balance them,
Sure.
but yeah, go ahead.
So at some point in time, I wanted to learn more. Didn't have. I grew up in Shawnee, so you're an hour outside of there, 45 minutes, whatever, outside of the city. So there's just nothing around, and there's nobody that I knew. There was a guy at the Shawnee bowling alley, for instance, that he like knew some things, but it was all like trick decks of cards and stuff like stuff you'd buy in novelty shops and stuff. And like it was definitely interesting to be exposed to that.
Right.
But like I don't know, I was craving more and more and more. And then this website came around.
The internet. That was the turning point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I remember vividly like dial-up internet and having like first computers back in the day, and it was pretty sweet. But there was this website that came around that's still around today called Penguin Magic. And it's like a marketplace for magicians. I couldn't afford to buy any of those things.
Right.
But they had demo videos of the products.
Okay.
So I would watch those demo videos and then try to reconstruct how they were doing it and come up with my own methods.
It's awesome.
How close did you
props.
get?
So at some point in time, I would eventually buy these things. Like whenever I started making money and stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to buy all these things that I always wanted when I was younger and couldn't afford. And so I started doing that. And sometimes I was really, really close on the method. Sometimes I would have something that was pretty different.
Yeah.
And in the magic world, that now makes it novel. You know, which is fascinating to me. Like you tear a card, put that card back together, right, is the trick. But there's probably
So many ways
50,
to do
60, 70,000 different ways to do that particular
awesome.
thing.
Oh, okay.
There's all sorts of different methods. And so a lot of the times what in the magic marketplace, what they're selling is a method. So the downside is just like any marketplace that there, music, anything, like there's a lot of crap.
Yeah.
And then you find those little diamonds in the rough.
Or even if you find, I think that if everybody does the same way, you know what I mean? It's like you said, everyone knows the same trick. So it's not going to be as novel, right? Like
Sure. But from your perspective, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, because you
how
can
I
change
accomplish it has no relevance.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
To the trick, like you just see the trick.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like maybe there's some aesthetic differences in the way you hold something or something like that.
But still, okay.
But yeah, I mean, to you, like the trick is the trick.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
To me, it's accomplishing that and finding the most effective way to do that.
Okay.
So in comedy, there's a chance, like you could. So say we're both doing the same trick.
Yep.
Well, that's stealing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that's
how's that work with you guys?
So magic isn't really policed quite the same way as comedy is, and of course, like I said, there is a marketplace for all this. So like Steve Martin is famously quoted for saying that magicians can just buy their act, which is technically true. You can technically do that. There's definitely a renaissance happening right now because you got shows like Penn and Teller's Fool Us and America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent, whatever, and YouTube, you know, all this access to all these magicians around the world that, like, you know, you go digging around, you're going to start seeing people doing kind of the same stuff. But then you go digging around a little further and you have people that are innovating a little bit and taking in real life and combining it in interesting ways. There's a thing on Disney, or no, it's on Hulu, by Derek Delgadio. He performed a show off Broadway in New York City for like a year or something like that, and then it got picked up to be a special on Hulu. But it's all very, like, you know, deep conversations that he's having, talking about how, like, his mom is a lesbian and how he would get bullied for his mom being a lesbian and things like that. So he's embedding deeply personal stories and also creating original magic. So the way I look at it is like, there, you know, you have a trick, right? So Torn and Sword card is a good example to stick with. The way you frame everything around it is the joke, right? The trick is the punchline.
Okay.
Right? And if you think about like all the other you know, comedy kind of things that might be juggling around in your brain, you have a setup. You have you from your premise, right? So I guess a trick can kind of just be considered the premise.
Okay.
So I mean, we could all talk about bad airline food, you know what I mean? But it's like how you tell that's more important at the end of the day. But then you also have, like, you know, it's all derivative, right? So like they say in music, there's only so many different, like, types of songs, or like a movie or something. There's only so many plots.
Right.
I'm sure it's the same for comedy, but you just have so many topics you can cover, you know, at week to week basis. You know, you can talk about what's in the news or whatever.
Right. I'd say for comedy, it's not less the topic and more so like the style of joke, right? Like the type, the way. Like you probably know, like there's only so many different types of jokes. And, you know what I mean?
Well, I like to equate it to music. When we did music, it was like we're not reinventing the wheel; we're just painting it a different color.
Yeah.
You know. And I think comedy's the same way. You're filtering your perspective through the premise.
Sure.
So the idea is that you're like, all right, how do I feel about airline food? My experience is going to be different than yours, right? Because I don't have enough money, so I just get the pack of peanuts. You know.
But if somebody's now,
they do pretzels.
Yeah, because people are allergic to peanuts.
Oh, well, I'm gluten free, so fuck them. No, dude, I'm not missing a meal is not gonna hurt me. But if I don't get that little pack of pretzels, what are there 5 in there? All right, we're good. What about 4 pieces of salt? We're good.
Yeah, you should get dry mouth.
Now you got to buy a drink. I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
What a game.
It's a clever play.
But no, we're talking about how do you okay, so this is it. How do you create a joke or create a trick? Are you sitting there messing with it, trying to go over and over all the time? Like,
I mean, there's all sorts of different ways to approach it. And it kind of depends, because like I've been hired to consult for people and fabricate things for people, like props and stuff. So like it all kind of depends. So like whenever I'm going about something, sometimes I just have like an idea for something, right? I released a product with Penguin Magic a couple of years ago that's called Split Ends. And what it is, you take a card and you toss it in the air and the card inverts itself. So now it's like a mismade thing that happens in midair. The whole concept of that came from, I figured out the apparatus side of it, the mechanical side of things. I had just this idea, and I go to my fiance and I'm like, hey, so I'm thinking this thing can do this, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, you're gonna have to show me. And I was like, all right. So I went and I built the prop.
Yeah.
And then I showed her, and she's like, oh, okay, that's fucking cool. And then I pitched it to this company, and they picked it up for distribution.
Nice.
Now, I played with that idea a lot, and I have lots of other ideas that spawned off of that prop.
Mm-hmm.
However, like I never really like interwove it into anything that I was doing on a regular basis, other than it just being like a punch to another trick.
Mm-hmm.
So like a phase of something.
Mm-hmm. It's like just another part of the act.
Yeah, it's an add-on.
Yeah.
Kind of little cherry on top.
Like a tag.
A tag.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there we go.
See what we're doing here?
Yeah. now we're cooking.
But no, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So that's a cool project. Because I remember I listened to a podcast I was telling you about with magician Aussie Wynn, but he was talking about how magicians create. They come up with that magician in particular comes up with these tricks that he'll spend years working on. Do you do stuff like that with certain things?
I think that's part of it too. Like some of the, like again that trick I just told you about, like that was kind of a sudden burst of inspiration, and then I played around with it for a long time to kind of refine it from there. But the initial idea just worked.
Right.
I didn't have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how not to make a light bulb. It just worked. Right. So I that was an easier thing to come up with. But then like I also have a variation of the torn and restored card that I publish in a magician's magazine.
Cool.
And I've been working on that since I was 14.
Yeah.
Nice.
So like just refining constantly, and there's no apparatus or anything to it. It's like 100% essentially just a legit thing. Like you can have a deck of cards. I can take a card from you, tear it up, restore it. Right? There's no super device or anything, like, you know what I mean? Anyway, so I published that, but I mean that was 14 years of just messing around with this concept for a while, and then whenever I put something in my show, sometimes I'm working on it for a really long time, because I work a day job still currently. I'm pretty busy with gigs. I also have school. I'm finishing my bachelor's degree.
Nice.
Hey, congrats.
Thank you. I hit the gym on a regular basis.
So
I have
busy.
a kid. Life is busy. I'm not the only one.
You're not having as much time as you used to, I'm sure. To work on tricks and that kind of stuff.
I was playing with my deck so much when I was 14.
Say that again.
So would you say that a lot of your stuff is like what is it, sleight of hand, like kind of, is that kind of the term, like as far as like just making things disappear and reappear, but just like doing it in a way, like even with the torn cards, because clearly you're not putting a torn card back together, like that's physically impossible, but you know what I mean, but you switch it out with another card. Is that kind of the idea for a lot of your stuff, like switching? Or am I giving? I don't want you to give anything away either.
Sure. I think there's again a lot of ways to approach that, right? Because like they're
just different for all of them. They could all be slightly different.
They could all be totally different. Because again, there's particular plots in Magic.
Right.
You can make something vanish. You can make it appear. You can make it transform. You can make it levitate. There's all sorts of different plots to run around with that. But yeah, I think for me, what I'm trying to do now is inject more of my real life into what I'm doing and tell more real stories. I did one of the bits that I did for Magic Merlot talks about all these new words that, like, all this slang kind of stuff that shit my daughter says. She's 13 and she says things like sigma, skibbity, chat, and gat. And only in Ohio, things like that. And so I have this whole bit where I explain like what all these words mean. And I created a magic trick around that. Cool. But really, it's about the story, right? It's about talking about not understanding my child.
Is it like, because I've seen you do some like stuff where you make someone pick a word on a page and then you write that. Do you do stuff like that with the word play of it?
Sure, I do. I do. And really, I do. Like, I'm considered a general practitioner. So, like, I love doing sleight of hand stuff, and I think I'm pretty proficient with that. I love doing stand up stuff, and some of the stand up stuff doesn't really require me to do as much, manual labor.
You can kind of like pad out the show a little bit. If you're funny, you can kind of, you don't have to be constantly doing tricks all night either.
Sure.
You know what I mean, make the show more variety of a show.
Sure. And I mean, that's more of what I'm trying to lean into is trying to be able to just be more personal about stuff, still keeping it funny, but
it's similar, I think, in comedy, because there's like a thing with comedians where it's like they have to find your voice, and you know what I mean? Like, you can start out as a comic for years and just kind of tell jokes, but you're not really portraying your true self, right? Like, you don't know what that is on stage yet. It sounds like that's something that you're trying to move into. It's like finding your true voice with magic and who you really are on stage.
And I'm very comfortable performing now. Obviously, like, used to be nervous about that kind of stuff, but like, do you know CJ Lance?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I've heard that name.
He doesn't really do a lot of comedy anymore. He kind of does, but a lot less than what he used to. And then he did improv for a while. Anyway, he used to do a lot of stand up. He had a show at Speakeasy for a long time called Divine Comedy.
Oh, see, I remember that. Yeah, I definitely know that name.
So I did a bachelor party on Friday night. I did magic for it, and it was a guy named Madison Allen, who also is another local comic.
I think I've seen him.
It was his bachelor party.
Oh, nice.
And CJ was there.
Yeah.
And we were chit chatting, and he mentioned, like, I remember whenever you were going and doing those open mics back in 2016 or whatever. I remember whenever you were going and doing all those open mics, and you just looked nervous.
Yeah.
And I think part of that's like, in a way, I kind of feel like performing for comedians at an open mic is kind of performing for my peers. And it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, okay.
But I've kind of grown into my own a lot, and I'm not afraid to like just be who I am and kind of personify that even more on stage.
It's like you have to learn how to do that at any moment. If you know what I mean, no matter who's watching.
Well, you come off very confident. Yeah, SoonerCon that was you brought the crowd in. Like I think last year, right?
Yep.
You did SoonerCon last year, and you brought the crowd in. Everybody was engaged.
Okay, so since you like magic with upholstery, do you want to see a rope trick? Sure. Yeah. No. Come on. SoonerCon, I need energy right now. Do you want to see a rope trick? Perfect. There's a trick. So the trick was getting everybody to cheer. Okay. So watch the rope. Okay, this is a magic rope. Do you know what that means? It's special. Absolutely. Magic. Thank you. I appreciate it. Can you take one end and give it a good pull? Nothing magical about it, right? No. You're wrong. There is magic to this rope. See, every rope that you're familiar with probably has two ends and one middle. Is that correct?
Nope. Yeah. It's magic. Dude, it's magic. You said you're a magic rope.
I'm going to get you soon. You watch.
Dude, I'm loving it so far, and I've had news.
So most ropes have two ends, one middle, but not this particular rope. I told you it's a magic rope. This rope has three ends and one middle. Not enough for SoonerCon. Okay. No. Don't patronize me. I will blow your minds right now. Most ropes have two ends, one middle. This rope has three ends, one middle. Not enough for SoonerCon. This rope has four ends. Thank you. Genuine child amazement.
I know.
Okay. This rope is actually two pieces of rope. Are we not impressed yet? No. Come on, SoonerCon. We'll start over. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. See, that's what magic should do, right? You can't even formulate sentences anymore. We're going to keep going. So we're going to take the piece of rope. Now, again, every rope has two ends and one middle. But what happens if you take off the two ends?
No middle.
job there, and that's hard because they're in and out. They're moving through the room.
So I actually have a thing that I've been trying to figure out ways to actually explain to people. Because used to what would happen is I would show up to a gig, obviously knowing like what I'm going to do, but I kind of relied on the audience to give me the energy that I needed to like deliver the show that I wanted to deliver. I didn't realize at the time that what you really have to do is find ways to pull them, as opposed to having them try to pull you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
or
Like,
you can't expect them to be there. You know, you have to do the work, kind of.
But then you can control the energy.
Absolutely. So like that was the light bulb moment for me, is learning to kind of flip that switch and pull people in.
That's definitely something I see in the similarities between, or for comics too, because comedy is all about, you have to get them to trust you, right? Like, you have to get, if you can get their trust, then they're going to laugh at everything you say, But just like with magic, right? I would imagine if you have some cool tricks up front, they're going to be like, oh, this guy's good, and they're going to really be paying attention and be more engaged.
Yeah, and then they're more forgiving of the shitty stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's funny that you say they're more forgiving of the shitty stuff.
Well, it's the same way with comedy. Like I said, because
you win their goodwill over, and then they're like, well, we'll laugh at this.
If you piss off a crowd as a comic in the beginning, it doesn't matter what you say, even if it's a good joke. They've already decided they're not laughing at you.
Well, I like to equate it to a conversation. Like, would you come in and just start real hard with somebody you've never met before, and just like start saying everything, like the curse words, tough topics? No, you're gonna kind of be, hi, I'm Nick, right? You're gonna do that first. And then you're going to go, okay, let's see where you're at. All right, now dicks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, imagine, because I guess, I don't know, I've always wondered this about magic and what you do, because it's like, are you like kind of relying on the crowd to like know what tricks you want to do? I imagine if you're like at a party or something, it may be a little bit easier to do this with, because if you're on stage, the whole crowd is there, so it's not like you can pick out people to like. Or my question is kind of like, I guess my question is like, do you see, are there like marks that you go towards that this trick is going to work on this person type thing?
To a certain extent, yeah. But I mean, obviously, like you can't 100% predict how someone will behave whenever you're bringing them into the spotlight kind of thing, because also people just like blank out, like like especially and anytime you get somebody on stage doing it, like there's this one bit that I do, and I'm asking these people questions, and one of the questions I ask is like, what's your favorite song, or even sometimes as simple as like, what's your least favorite color or whatever. And they like
just have nothing.
You know what I mean? Like,
deer in headlights.
It's So like sometimes that happens, but there's ways to work around that and create a funny moment out of it and stuff, and just get some byplay out of the deal. And obviously, like my goal is never to like make anybody feel lesser.
You don't want to make you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable necessarily.
But I do want to pump them up and you know get them comfortable and that kind of thing. But to answer your question, like, a lot of the times I'm scoping out the room. Like Magic Merlot is a really good example. Like I'm at the back of the room, I'm cheering on the other magicians and not heckling, but I am definitely participating in the show in a way that I'm kind of conditioning the audience to respond to me. Later.
Well, you're the lead. They follow you. If you start doing something, they're like, okay, we can do that.
So I'm vocally participatory. That's
cool. I like that.
Shouting wow or miracles or whatever. Like I'm doing stuff like that because I want to engage that kind of way later.
And you kind of want to show them that that's okay to do in a way. Yeah, it's like you can yell and
because there's no real like proper response to magic. If you think about what the like real response, like someone levitates in front of you, you're not gonna be like, holy shit, bro. You're gonna be like,
or they stoned you back in the day. That was the alternative.
That's the
you're not
response.
A sorcerer.
The logical response is not to clap and cheer and laugh and things like that. So you have to find, or at least
there's no laughter that you have. I mean, comics, if the joke is funny because they're gonna laugh. Right.
Well, there's leading on that. I do in the back of the room with Liz, where I enjoy this anyways, but I do laugh a little louder. I try to get into it more. Yeah, and I noticed I was at my daughter's. We went to a little auditorium, like, you know, they had a dancers and stuff, school function kind of deal, and we were just sitting there watching her friends, and they're dancing and everything, and I'm so conditioned now to clap that I'm just like, yeah, oh yeah,
you're like, yeah, let them hear it, yeah.
That's what it feels like, though. And she's just like, why are you clapping so loud? It's because I'm enjoying something.
Like, because that's my job on most days.
But there is a little bit, like as a performer, if you receive that energy, you do better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so really I'm personally I'm like, come on, let's get it. You know, you can you know, like it's more of like I'm giving you my energy to be like, and then it works. It works every time. And then the people around you, it's so infectious because they want to have fun too. That it's just like, yeah. So the guy behind me starts doing it louder too. You know?
That's what we need now. You need to get a hype man.
I need to pay people to clap.
And you just need a hype man. You just gotta pay somebody to come in the audience that's just the loudest cheering person.
I mean, big time magicians do stuff like that in their big time shows. Like Vegas guys, Broadway guys, all this kind of stuff. Like they do things in particular to get the reaction that they want. I mean, David Copperfield is a good example. He wants a standing ovation at the end of his show, and people clapping. Holy shit, you know, all this kind of stuff. And like, you know, that whole everybody standing up in front of you, that's strong. Like that doesn't happen super often. I mean, so there's a thing that he does. I don't really want to like spoil it all, but there's a thing that he does that
is it. I can imagine it's like you want to give yourself every opportunity for that thing that you want to happen to happen. So it's like, if you pay some people to maybe sit in the audience and stand up and start the cheer, you know what I mean? Like
he doesn't even have to do that. He literally
or just asks them to do it, or you know, beforehand or something. I mean, I think
this is the deep end. I wasn't planning on giving away David Copperfield's secrets.
Oh, cool. We're gonna figure out how to get people to stand up.
So I went to Copperfield in Vegas a couple years ago, and I had front row tickets. I could touch the stage from my seat, so it was pretty sweet.
Awesome.
And a total fangirl. So I had those tickets, and there was a person, you know, in like a black like a lady in like a black pantsuit. So she like comes up and she asked if I was a magician or press and like media, and I knew that the proper response was to say no, because otherwise I don't learn secrets. And so I told them no, because if you tell them you're a magician or if you tell them that you're press, then they're gonna move past it. It's just be like, okay, great, thanks for being here, you know, and then leave. So instead, she informed me that, you know, David is going to go and disappear from here, reappear from there, and then come back on stage and, you know, stand for an applause cue kind of thing. And, you know, it would be great if we could get the whole audience to stand up. And since you're in the front row, if you could stand and, you know, get that started, that would be amazing. So I did that. My lady did that because I had communicated to her to do that. Nobody else really did. And there was a backstage person that was dressed in civilian clothes, not just all black, you know, like a stagehand. And they brought one of those like camping stools, that like trifold camping stool that like, you know, you can get out in 2 seconds. They brought that. They sat behind me and then started clapping as if they were watching the show the whole time. Right, because they're trying to encourage that whole standing ovation sort of thing. Like,
so
I'll probably get sued for that.
But is that where you started doing what you do at your shows to try to encourage that?
It showed me that classical conditioning can work.
I mean, like I said, I think that kind of stuff probably happens way more. Not even in magic. I imagine in like any type of performance, if they want somebody, you know what I mean, like at the Emmys or the Oscars or whatever.
I mean, that's why they have laugh tracks in sitcoms. You know,
it's like that kind of stuff doesn't surprise me necessarily. So I think it's interesting to learn about, just because there's no reason that we can't use those same tricks. You know?
Well, they do it on the street where they have a guy that'll look up, and then people start coming around him to look up, and then everybody just gathers to look up. And it's the same thing with clapping, because everybody, if you think about it, it's more of a curiosity. Like, why are they doing that? Why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
You know, and then I mean, you can either have them. I mean, it's literally, if you didn't earn it, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. If you didn't earn it, you're not going to get it. So really, he's just going.
Yeah.
Two people need to stand up here.
But he's hedging his bets.
Yeah, he really is.
Because you can't really, even though, like I said, you can try to do everything you can, but you still can't control everything.
It's David Copperfield though. The show is going to be fucking incredible.
Yeah.
The trick is going to do it.
Yeah.
He knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It deserves one.
But he's also trying to elicit the response that he desires.
That's awesome. So is that kind of like, would you say that's a lot of magic for you? I mean, in general, right? Like you have a reaction that you want to get. And so it's like you have to kind of figure that out or get that reaction from that particular person.
I definitely think a lot more these days about the showmanship rather than the tricks. I think about the writing. I think about the overall showmanship, how I'm standing and presenting on stage, and I actually kind of like the haphazard nature of how I perform. Believe it or not, I'm a pretty analytical person, and like I think about things a lot. Like I lose sleep over this shit sometimes. You know, like I think about how a show went incessantly. I'll watch back footage. I go over my script a lot. You know, I'm trying really hard to make it as best as it can be. However, I don't think that I'm like a super suave. You know,
like
I'm never going to be like a James Bond type of character on stage. I'm never going to be that Sherlock Holmes kind of guy, you know, that's just got it calm, cool, collected, always figured out kind of thing. So like I try to build in moments where like it just kind of seems sloppy, I guess.
Yeah, and
does that make sense?
I think so because
that
it's
runs
like
along your persona too, though.
Right.
It's like I said, that's kind of you lean into that because you know that it's like you're not that person that you like you said that's super suave person. So it's like just lean into who you are, you know, and just bring that even more into focus as a part of the show.
So I think a lot about the writing. I think a lot about the showmanship. I definitely think a lot about like how I can make this the best show for everybody. And I think part of that is again, you know, like with Magic Merlot, while the other guys are performing, I'm giving them reaction to what they're doing. Because again, there's no proper response to Magic. So if you don't know how to respond initially, how can they expect you to just figure it out? You know what I mean? Yeah. So if by kind of doing the conditioning process that I've been developing there, it gives them reactions that they can feed off of and gives them that, you know, performer's high kind of thing while they're going, because like, you know, they're buzzing off of it, like they're feeling good, had a good set, this kind of thing, and then I get on stage and I can take advantage of everything that I built in the process. Yeah.
So do you kind of open it up and you're the host? Or is there a separate host, or you just kind of bring people up one at a time? You guys go up, or
I am the host, and then I also close.
Oh, nice.
So here's the challenge to myself on this: I'm not going to repeat a trick for the entire run of these shows. So we've done 3 so far. I do about 20-25 minutes per one. And I have not repeated a trick yet.
That is a hell of a challenge.
And the goal is to keep burning through material and developing new material.
Wow,
things like that. Because I mean, the bigger goal is like eventually I want to have my own special. So I'm trying to develop all these routines, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, like, you know, rapid fire, just trying to hit it as much as possible. And I do a lot of other shows anyway outside of the Magic and Merlot.
So you're always
so I'm just trying to tweak and improve and change.
That's awesome.
And also I'm just trying to be as original as possible.
Where are your other shows at?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
But you do a lot of like
country. Because I know you were just back from New York.
You did a lot of stuff like corporate stuff and different, like not traditional shows, right?
I had to come do photos at the wedding I got hired to perform at. I got hired at a wedding. I just did a bachelor party on Friday. I did a comedy club in New York.
Nice.
I've done like street magic style stuff. You know, whenever I'm trying new things, like obviously for friends and stuff, I'll just try something. And I get booked for a lot of corporates, conferences.
Just
I'm doing a daycare, which is really not my normal thing. Really not my normal.
But you got to try it.
You can do like the same 6 tricks over and over though for kids. Like you
like
take a card. It's the 2 of diamonds. Can you hold out your hand? Put your other hand on top. Turn it over.
Oh,
right?
You could do that to me a bunch of times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can do it to a 6-year-old a bunch of times too.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it's my turn, my turn.
Oh,
So even though I don't really want to do kid shows and stuff like that, going and doing a daycare gig, cakewalk.
Yeah.
It's so easy. I can literally bring like 4 things with me and perform for 2 hours.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's that's what I like about what you do. It's like you have this. We always talk about creating your own opportunities for as a performer. I mean, I always think about it from the music side because music's the hardest because it's like you need a lot to have a show. Stand up, but you can do almost anywhere that has a wall and a corner.
I do it at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what I mean. Like to have a proper show, you can. But it's like magic. You can literally just do it on the street. You know, it's like it's you don't
I've
need
also
anything.
been hired for festivals and the con and things like that. Like,
so you kind of have the range of the smallest imaginable stage to like arena.
So how often are you performing?
I did 7 shows last month, like 7 actual shows. One of them was at the Comedy Club in New York. One of them was Magic Merlot, and all the other ones were like private gigs that I was hired for.
And do you still go around to open mics and kind of mess around there?
I don't have enough time right now. That's probably an excuse, but I also just genuinely don't feel like I have enough bandwidth to
Plus,
even
Because I saw you at Bricktown. You did Bricktown Comedy Club, didn't you?
Yeah, I used to do it a bunch.
I
I used to do a lot of open mics back then, but also specifically with Bricktown, I was trying to get them to hire me. Like I wanted to show them that like I'm here doing the thing because I had other friends like Brad Chad got hired by them, and Gandhi Bones got hired by them, and Brandon Kilo, and all these guys. Like I wanted to show them that I'm around, that I have an act, this kind of thing. So I went and did their mic a bunch, but they weren't really hiring magicians at the time. I've seen them hiring magicians now, though, so maybe it's a good time to reapproach.
Yeah, I went and saw a few people. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
There's a little lemon trick that blew my mind, which isn't hard to do, honestly. You did it with that card trick.
To blow your mind.
It's like if something disappears and reappears, that gets me every time. Big fan of prostitutes. But I wanted to ask you, since you're putting in all this work, how do you get connected with your corporate, with that world? And is it something that you've cultivated over time, or is it just networking, or do you ask straight out? Do you have an EPK you send over?
All of that.
All of that.
Yeah. So you mentioned creating your own opportunities. I mean, that's literally how it all kind of started for me. Because again, I started when I was about 6 years old, actually like developing skills, and then eventually creating my own things. And I would book little gigs here and there, like go do like my mom worked at a hospital, and they used to do this like fall carnival kind of thing.
Nice.
So I'd go have like a little booth at the fall carnival or whatever. I'd get hired to go do like a senior living center or something like that. So I would do all these little shows and street magic, because David Blaine was really popular, at the time. Like I would do all these little shows, but like I couldn't get stage time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to build up like a stand-up kind of profile going on here. And so I hit up Looney Bin out here in Oklahoma City when it was still open. And I was like, hey, I saw you have like an open mic. Can I come do your open mic? And they were like, no. I was like, why? Like, well, you're not 21. I was like 15, so I'm just trying to like do something. And so they turned me down. A couple other places turned me down that were around. Sorry, my phone is
that's
buzzing.
tough whenever you're at that teenage. And then it's like you have to be 21 to get into most places.
And if there were like alternative mics like there are now, like at Othello's or at a deli or Sauce or whatever, if there were any of those mics at the time, because this was 2006, 2007. If there were any of those mics at the time, I just didn't know about them, didn't know anybody that was doing them.
Right,
that kind of thing.
I mean...
So I used, I was on MySpace. And at that point in time, a lot of big name people were, or at least big name at the time, were actually managing their own social media accounts.
Yeah, you could actually talk to somebody important.
I would just hit people up. I'd get the Oklahoma Gazette.
I
would look at what's coming to town. I would hit these people up and say, hey, can I MC? Hey, can I come open your show? I'll do it for free, whatever. Like, just trying to get flight time. And I ended up coming across this place that was in Midwest City that was called True Love's Place. It was like a pool hall that would also have like concerts and stuff. And so they'd bring in like bands, like metal bands, like In This Moment played there one time. So not like super big at the time, but like kind of big bands now.
Different,
you know?
yeah.
Do you remember where that was?
It was off of Midwest Boulevard and 29th.
In 29th.
There's like a car lot right across the street. But yeah, so I hit them up, and it was my sophomore, junior year of high school over the summer, and I was like, hey, I want to come do a show. I have all this material, yada, yada, yada. Well, at that time, I really wanted to also be a stand-up comedian, just as a comedian for just doing that straight.
Yeah.
So I had tons of material that I had written just about life, experimenting with different ways to masturbate and stuff like so
the standard 16.
Yeah. Lots of dick jokes. Lots of dick jokes. I had nothing else to talk about. So this place told me they said, yeah, we book 2-hour minimum time slots for reserving.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool, but I didn't know anybody to like hit up to help me fill time.
To try to fill out the show.
So I did 30 minutes of like comedy magic. And then I did 90 minutes of just straight stand-up that I had written but never performed.
Oh my god!
Because you had to fill 90 minutes.
Completely untested material. And I bombed for the entirety of doing stand-up straight.
So how'd the first 30 minutes?
It was okay. Yeah. It was my first ever stage show.
2 hours of magic.
I didn't have it. Man. I didn't have enough material at all. So like, I was just like, I want to be a comedian too. Yeah. So like, I was trying that angle. And my mom and dad came to that show. My mom came up to me afterwards and she was like, "You were so bad they wanted to pull you off with a cane." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've made it." But it went from that to like, then I'm hitting up all these people on MySpace. They're coming to the Conservatory, which is now like 89th Street Collective, or they're hitting the Opolis in Norman or Diamond Ballroom, or wherever. Like there's all these different like small venues. There used to be a place called Universe City or something like that.
I remember
Norman.
that place. We played there.
So I did a lot of basement shows over there.
Oh, you were? Yeah, that's cool.
And then
we played there once with our band because I remember the first time we met you. I think it was back in probably 2007 or 8, and I think that you opened for our band was Aliens versus Robots. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We played at Sauce one time. I think that you opened for us one time.
I used to do a ton at Sauce. Like there was all these like jam bands that would book out there. And again, I was just finding all this in the Gazette,
just
and
anywhere,
looking them up on MySpace and sending them a message.
That's awesome
because hey, let me open.
Because I mean, I would imagine it's like a lot of people. I think partly because you're one of the only, or definitely the biggest name. I think as a magician, a local magician. You know what I mean? Like there are obviously. Who I met a few of last week, but but really, like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you're probably one of the only magicians most people know about around here. But it's like, so anyways, I love that because you just made that happen for yourself. Yeah. Because there was no opportunities for any magician to become popular,
I think a lot of that I can attribute to you guys, the comedians, because I was following, people like Dane Cook or whoever at the time, and they'd go on interviews and talk about performing in a laundromat or whatever,
just anywhere,
anywhere, everywhere, whatever it was. And then there's this magician that I liked a lot of the time that, still like, he's great, but he had done a tour with Jason Mraz, and I was like, well, that's dope. You can do shows with musicians. Yeah. And so then that's kind of what started that whole MySpace thing of doing
you did
all
with
that.
Keisha.
I went on a I went on a tour with Kesha from Idaho all the way to Florida. So
killer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that was
wow.
Mickey Avalon. Do you know who that is? He had a song called "My Dick" back in the day. That's his like claim to fame, man. So he was the bigger name at the time. Yeah. Kesha had just got TikTok on the radio. Okay. Like literally, it was playing on the radio as we were touring.
Wow.
So this was 2009 or 10. Whenever I did that tour, and they flew me out to Idaho, and then I rode on a bus for a while till we got to Oklahoma City, and then I drove the rest of the way through this. I was 18, and they dropped me off at my house, and then I drove 100% of the rest of the way through from Oklahoma all the way to Florida, hitting all the stops. And
How'd it go?
Sleeping in my car and working on a per diem because they couldn't afford to pay me. I was just like, I'm down. So what I would do is I would busk. And I would stand around at the merch table and I would do magic for people, and they just saw me perform and all that. And then I would just break the news to them and be like, hey, I'm touring right now. I have no money. Give me some money.
So
I would like busk essentially at the merch booth and pick up tips and things. And I smoked cigarettes at the time, so it gave me the money to buy some cigarettes and food and gas and keep going. I'd shower at the venue. Fun times. Very glamorous.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But you need that, man. You obviously loved it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was amazing. And I think it kind of shows you what that world is really like, because you go to a concert, whatever, like you go to the 89th Street is probably a good example of that, because you go to one of those concerts and you're like, oh man, this is amazing, I wanted to see this guy for a while, but meanwhile he's performing in a room that only holds like 300 people, so like even though he's big in your world, it's a room of 300 people, so it's not like he's performing at the Paycom Center for 18,000.
Right. Well, somewhere you're big in somebody's world.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed, man. And hopefully, like that'll carry through. Like hopefully we can just kind of keep building that. But I created my own opportunities early on, and then now like I'm still creating my own opportunities. I work full time at Rose State College, so that's my normal job. I work in the events department of that place. So I'm very privileged that I get to network with people from like the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
And
that's a good place to be for that. Actually, that's
so
great.
I get to show them new stupid tricks that I'm working on and make friends and stuff like that. So at this last Magic Merlot, one of the people from the Chamber of Commerce was there, and then he's been pitching it to people, and we're doing this like Chamber of Commerce event next week, and he asked if I would like give away tickets and invited me to promote the show while I'm there and stuff. So it's leading to other opportunities, and I did a funeral home hired, not fired. A funeral home hired me to do an awards banquet for them last month. And now it's a chain. It's 13 different funeral homes that they have in their section. Now all their administrative assistants are going to do an outing at a Magic Merlot.
Oh,
so it's all kind of building on top of itself.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good, man. Congratulations.
Thanks,
you've been working.
Sounds like it's
trying,
hustling, man.
Trying.
I appreciate that hustle too. It's something that I strive to try to do. It's tough bringing people into a show, and that's probably the hardest. I used to think it was writing the jokes. It's really not. It's getting people to come watch them.
Yeah. It's definitely not if you build it, they will come situation.
No, you got to make it happen.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that about you. You're very, again, like all the things that you listed. That's you. I mean, I know you joked, but you're on the Rose State. You're a model. Like
I'm on a billboard.
You're on a billboard.
I'm on a billboard. Yeah,
you're on a billboard, which is crazy. It's just like you're everywhere, and we, I mean, like Dave said, we've known you since we've known of you. We really didn't get to know you.
Well, like, because I remember that show, and I always thought it was fascinating because I was like, oh, this is a magician. This is so cool and weird and different. You don't see that. I didn't know any magicians, like local magicians for sure. So I always remembered your name too, and then I think that. I don't know where, because I pandemic and lots of stuff has happened since those days. But like, you started getting into comedy. I don't know where we kind of ran back into you at recently or what. I think we just kind of, we've all are out here doing stuff, so it's kind of.
I mean, you hit me up, so I think
about that show maybe last year. Okay.
And I think a lot of it is just like we're swimming in the same circle.
I mean, we kind of know of each other.
I
saw your stuff too. Like I said, I followed you for a little while, and I didn't even. David reminded me. That he was like, you remember he did that show with us a long time ago. I was like, I slept a lot since then.
We are now taking donations to help support Rhythm and Wit. It's called buymeacoffee.com/rhythm and wit. And that is where you can go and just donate any amount. I think that what they do is it's called Buy Me a Coffee. You can buy us 1 cup of coffee. costs $5, so you can just donate $5, and that will maybe buy one of us a coffee.
Yeah,
So
we'll sip on it together.
We'll split it. So you can do that, or you can buy us 10 cups of coffee if you wanted to. So, I mean, that's like a $50 donation, and then that's all goes there. You can leave us a message on there, and if you do leave us a message, we will certainly read it on the air, and thank you for your support. And any of the money that we take from Buy Me a Coffee, or any donations at all, we are going to use to put back into the show, whether it's buying new equipment, maybe some mics or cameras or lights or anything like that, or maybe even promoting and just trying to grow the audience, because that's something that I'd like to get into, is buying some ads and things like that to try to grow our audience in that way.
Absolutely.
And of course that costs money, so we would love it if you could support us. If you have the means, please go to buymeacoffee.com/rhythm wit. Rhythm and Wit.
How many magicians are there roughly in Oklahoma?
It's kind of hard to say because there's like a club, they meet once a month. And
was
hang
that
out.
the guy Cassidy? Is he the
he's
president?
the club president.
Yeah,
For the Oklahoma City Magic Club. And there's a number of guys there that hang out on the regular. It's like 15-ish that come on a regular basis, but there's definitely more.
Where is it at?
So they do it at a church right now that's over in Moore.
Yeah.
Is there a name of the club if anybody wants to go look?
Just Oklahoma City Magic Club.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
They got a Facebook group and everything?
Yeah, there's a Facebook group. Website is like okcmagic.com or something. But
sure.
Well, I'm glad that you're highlighting them. Like, you're bringing people in.
Yeah. And that's the goal of that show is to give them an opportunity, perform, work on new things, do things that they're really good at, whatever, cast themselves in the best light possible with an audience that's going to eat it up, you know what I mean? And then they get good footage out of the deal, get pictures that they can utilize for marketing themselves later down the road. I want to encourage that because again, like, comedy is probably a little saturated, right?
Yeah,
like
there's
probably well over 100 comics in the metro.
I mean,
maybe at 50.
But the
You
thing
think
is,
so?
like, there's a ton of them, but there's, as far as practicing comics,
Sure.
That's what I think with Magic too. I'm sure there's a ton of people that probably dabble, but like, who is actually practicing it, trying to get better, and
I think there's a cycle of it too, though, right?
Yeah.
Because like also I
Same.
can think of all these guys that don't really gig much anymore, but they still get picked up every now and then to go do something, like CJ Lance, he was
or Brad
telling me,
Chat even. Yeah, Brad
well,
Chat.
he was telling me that Brad Chat hit him up, or like Cameron Buckholtz hit him
Yeah.
up to go do a show or something like that. So I'm sure there's also like maybe there's like 50 guys that are pretty active, but there's probably at least another 50
there's
are
probably
kinda in and out.
There's probably I would say over 100 comics that have performed at least in the past couple of years.
Are we saying Oklahoma in general or Oklahoma City?
Probably just like in the city.
Yeah.
And then Tulsa has another batch of however many, and and then sometimes those crossover. I think it's all kind of same and different. We've got about 20 guys that I'm pretty good friends with, and then you've got a bunch of kind of outliers of that. Some people have moved away. Some people are in Tulsa area. Something like. I mean, it's all kind of the same. There's definitely not a lot of magicians. I would think that there's probably more comedians.
Right. There's probably like a quarter of magicians versus comedy, or if that.
Sure. Because it's a pretty small knit community. We kind of everybody knows everybody, and you meet everybody over time. I performed for David Blaine last year, so like, you kind of meet everybody. Eventually,
even in the whole country, huh?
Yeah. I mean, and I get out there enough that I'm getting hired to do all sorts. I'm doing shows in Texas and kind of regionally, Joplin, kind of Kansas, whatever.
Awesome.
And that's word of mouth, or you're actually, like I said, kind of reaching out and
building relationships, reaching out to people, networking in general. Like it's all of it, man. Same thing that I used to do with MySpace back in the day. I still kind of do that to a certain extent.
Hitting up certain, it's like I like that because you find a certain avenue that you can explore, and then you just kind of go towards that.
But I also now have like enough experience with selling tickets and promoting myself and things like that. Like I can go hit new markets. So like there's this theater that's in Rockport, Texas that, it's on the coast of Texas. So it's, it's quite a ways away from here. So there's no competition with OKC, which is great for me. But like I've sold that out the last 2 years that I've done that show, going back in August, and now they added a second show because of just demand.
Congrats.
So what's your typical advertising plan? Like you're coming in, you set up a show a month, 2 months in advance.
Sometimes more.
Sometimes more. How long do you like to have them out? How much lead time? And then how are you kind of peppering your advertising along the way? What are you doing?
So I have a show that I do every year in Shawnee at the Ritz Theater.
Oh, nice.
It's about a 300 cap room, so it's not a huge.
I was there
theater.
a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, watching a comedian.
Really? Yeah. I think they were trying to get me to go to that. They like to send me. So there's a magician that came through there recently that typically is out of Branson, and he came in and was doing like a big illusion show. So they invited me to come to that, and they were like, "You gonna come in a couple weeks for the comedian?" I was like, "Maybe, I don't know, whatever." But great folks out there. Anywho, so I do that show with them every year. We used to do like 2 a year. We played around with that. And we were kind of halfway selling it out, but not really. Anyway, to answer your question, that show's been booked for a year now. And I haven't announced it officially on my website. It says the date and then to be determined. So kind of I'll pepper it out. But also usually it's done in October, so it's a Halloween themed show. We've been doing a seance.
That's cool.
And some people do not think it's cool.
Really?
It's a seance.
Yeah.
It's like you're conjuring spirits kind of thing. So I've noticed that I actually have a drop in ticket sales because of that.
Okay.
Like my goal has been, I'm going to sell out this theater, because I do a lot of rooms that are between 50 and 100, 150 people. And I can sell those out pretty comfortably. For the most part. That room, being at about 300, my goal has been to hit that number because then I want to try to scale again, and move on to a bigger venue.
That's awesome.
So I've noticed that I cap out at about 200 ticket sales at that show, like consistently. We were doing like 2 shows a year, and I'd cap out at about 200. And I don't know if that's like location
Total or each show?
For each show.
For each show.
Yeah. So I didn't know if that had to do with location or not, and then I saw this guy from Branson come in, and he did 2 shows that were almost completely sold out in that theater. Obviously, he's got probably a bit more money to play with than I do. He's got his own theater in Branson and everything, so he's probably playing in a little bit bigger of a pool than I am. But he sold out 2 shows, so that told me that it's possible to sell out shows in that theater even at my level. So that's still the goal. So I've decided that I'm going to change the format. We're not going to summon spirits at this next one.
That was just kind of fun for the Halloween aspect.
It's a good creepy vibe, and there's definitely a market for that. But I we live in the Bible Belt, so like I think a lot of people would rather avoid.
I think it's definitely something that like that. It's like you said, you don't necessarily think that could be something that people turn people off. You think it's fun.
I didn't think about it until people started telling me, "Oh, my wife won't come to that because you're doing a seance."
Yeah. Well, at least you're listening to the people.
No,
it's good.
So this year,
it's good that you found out and didn't just keep doing it and didn't know.
So this year we're changing it. I haven't really talked about it publicly. We're changing it to a murder mystery, like a magic murder mystery, whodunit kind of thing. So it's going to involve the audience. So it'll be a role playing kind of thing as well. So it'll involve the audience. Someone of them will be a murderer kind of thing, and we're going to use like magic as special effects. So instead of like pick a card. Is this your card? It's going to be more so like you would see in a movie where there's things that happen auxiliary wise.
That's a good idea.
So it's done as a special effect rather than as a direct magic trick, if that makes sense.
That's a good switch. That's good.
And then there's a whole plot murder mystery to it and stuff. So we're still kind of hammering out some of the finer details of that, and then finding ways to add in more magic to keep it really fun and magical still. So it's not just like a mini play sort of thing. Because it'll be 20-ish minutes long total, but might flesh out tomorrow. We've got some editing to do, but you know, it's working itself out. So.
Are you practicing this? Or
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I have
running it
partners.
through
I have partners with that, and a couple of the guys, they like to fabricate things like bigger props, so they're set pieces and that kind of thing, and working on with a couple of directors. And
I
just
did
trying
not realize how much went into Magic.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like what I do, for instance. There, you know, there's magic, there's comedy,
Yeah.
but there's also acting.
Yeah.
I just told you a little bit about the psychology
I
side
didn't know.
of things.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that you were an actor from someone.
I've done quite a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done some movies and short films.
Or maybe we've
print
talked
ads.
about it actually.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's a thing called The Hum on YouTube that you can go watch. This is a little horror short that I did for
Okay.
a buddy of mine. They have a film company called Dead End Film House.
Oh
so
yeah,
that-
that's the guy that was getting married, right? They
Yeah,
did
yeah.
yeah, I remember it.
Yeah.
Dead
Nice,
End. Those guys are.
So yeah, I did their short film called The Hum. I've done a few movies.
Well, it mentions on your website you've been on MTV too.
Yeah. I did MTV and got to do magic on there, and
That's
it's
awesome.
pretty cool. And definitely just shooting for the stars and trying to land on the moon. You know,
Yeah,
just,
for sure.
just trying to throw everything at the wall and seeing what
Yeah.
sticks.
I think you're getting there, dude.
Yeah.
Based on what
Trying.
I'm hearing, you're selling out $200 at the Ritz, or 200
Good
people at the
tickets.
Ritz.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's killer. I mean,
but
not
there's still
selling out, but
goals. There's still
Yeah,
goals.
yeah.
You know?
Obviously.
So
Yeah.
trying to get it to the point that we sell it out. And,
Is
you
it
know.
just you?
No, so for the Ritz show, I bring on a couple other magicians too, but everything is themed, right? And so we're layering on top of one another, so
You're
it's
kinda
not quite the
working
same
together.
format
Yeah.
as the Magic and Merlots. So this person will do a set, this person will do a set, I do a set, and then we do the overarching kind of thing.
Fun, dude.
But we're collaborating on that overarching thing.
I like that's great.
Yeah.
Like that'd be cool to do here, even if you wanted to do, or you could do it at Magic or Merlot if you
I
wanted
think for
to.
October we'll
Yeah.
probably road test a little bit more
Well,
of the
because
material.
it
in
just
that
made me
show.
think of the Martin Dupross, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where I think, because you started talking about the murder mystery thing. They did a murder mystery thing recently, a few months ago, but so they might be. You could work with them on something like that. They
Yeah, I
would love
definitely
it.
would love to bring in
But,
more people.
But yeah, hit them up for sure. But that's where I think that's where the first time I'd seen you after 10 years plus was at one of their shows a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
At the Point A down the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's where I remember seeing you there and like, oh shit, yeah, I remember.
I did like a 10-minute set.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was fun.
that was cool. And that was a cool spot. Is it open still?
No, they closed,
closed.
maybe about a year, last year sometime, but no, yeah, that was a nice little stage in there.
Yeah,
But,
they had
yeah.
a sweet setup for sure. That was sweet.
Yeah, hopefully somebody will take that spot and maybe do something with it, but I don't know. We'll see.
Let me get back. I want to get back to this advertising. That's like super important to me. I know it's kind of like you don't want to tell all your tricks, but I want you to.
Those are the tricks that I have to tell you.
Yeah, right. Don't tell any other tricks.
I don't want to know the other ones because I want them to work.
Yeah.
Trick me, dude.
No, but
But no, I want to get back to the advertising part of like when you're coming into a new place, like say you've never been there before, you rented out a venue, you start at 50 to 100 people. What's the advertising plan there? Like you coming in new, how long do you like to start your advertising?
Preferably as early as possible, right? At least creating an event on Facebook,
Right.
You know, and that's a pretty good start to
Yeah.
things as getting that going. So whenever you're working with other venues and things like that, like right now, I mean, I see you working and stuff, but like you got the thing at the comic book shop, and you've got Put a Cork in it as well, and some other venues that I've seen
Bamboo
you do.
Room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at all of those places, are you in charge 100% of tickets?
Bamboo Room is free show. So it's
Okay.
just that one's kind of built in, like they have a community, and it's easy to rally people around Del
Okay.
City. And then Put a Cork in it. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
We take the door, and
Yep.
then the comic book shop is we take the door, and then we just split it. It's really a place I like to think of as a way for people to get practice.
Yeah.
So it's like for entry level or upcoming comedians, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what I do now. And I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, I'm just curious as to what you're doing already, because like
As advertising goes?
because like my degree's in marketing, so
nice.
like I I think about that stuff a lot too, and think about different ways that I can make it fun. So like for this last Magic and Merlot show, I happened to be in New York before the last Magic and Merlot. So I shot a little promo video while I'm in New York.
What's up, Oklahoma City? My name is John Schack, and this is your brain. And this is your brain on my magic. I'm going to be in Oklahoma City at Put a Cork in on April 3rd doing Magic and Merlot. Come hang out.
Visually impressive,
on
things like that.
Times Square.
Yeah, I did it right at
I
Times
think I
Square.
remember that.
And then I like did magic for the Naked Cowboy and things like all the things, and so I was just conscious of that kind of stuff, and you know, trying to think of ways that I could integrate it into my trip out there and find ways to
Make
promote.
some
But like,
content.
you know, video content's great. Like video is very shareable, things like that. And I noticed a lot of what you do is primarily the flyer. And I'm sure I've seen photos that David's taken of like previous shows and stuff. But like promoting the flyer is great if you have a flyer that conveys the message that you want it to convey, which I don't think you don't. It's not like I'm trying to say any implications on what you're doing currently. But like there was a magician that came through that did an R-rated magic show, and his whole flyer just specified R-rated magic show without a whole lot of detail outside of that, right? So you have a curiosity as to what's going on there. And a lot of these comedy shows that happen around, I think you could build the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So with Magic and Merlot, what I tried to do is not necessarily associate me with the show. So if you look at the flyers, it doesn't say John Schack Presents or anything like that. Once you start digging a little deeper, yes, it does.
It'll
But
say,
that
I think
initial
it
first
has your
impression-
website at the bottom. I think that's really it.
Yeah, and even the one for the event, because also there's A/B testing. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
So A/B testing is whenever you have, you know, you take this flyer and you have an adaptation of that flyer and you see which one works better. So with the current Magic and Merlot that is coming up in May, the flyer has no details other than the title.
Right.
Literally, it's just Magic and Merlot at the title. And hopefully the idea is that hopefully that it encourages you to click and you take another step, and then you can read about the show within the event profile, the description of it all, and then hopefully that encourages you to take the next step, right? Because I'm informing you what the show is kind of about. I haven't yet told you that I'm going to give you a glass of wine with your ticket sale. You know, I'm just kind of giving you a synopsis of the show. And then that way, hopefully, whenever you take the next step and you actually click on the Eventbrite or whatever, hopefully at that point you're like, oh shit, I get a free glass of wine with this too for the price of a ticket. And so then hopefully that's like enough icing on the cake. It's, like you've probably seen a sales pitch before where you like scroll through a website and they tell you all the benefits of their product, and then they tell you the bonuses that you're going to get. Yeah. And then if you still keep scrolling through that like one page kind of thing, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we'll give you 20% off. You know what I mean? Like the deal just keeps getting better the farther down you scroll.
Breadcrumbs.
Yeah. So like in my mind, the idea is that you want to get them to take the next step, right? So if you're doing content marketing, which you are already, you're doing content marketing. The idea is to post something that's engaging enough that they take the next step. And the next step it could be as simple as just going to your Facebook event or going to the Eventbrite, going to your website, whatever. You just want to get them to take the next step. I mean, it works the same on Google, right? So like if you search Oklahoma magician, I'm either number one or number two, depending on if somebody's paying for it. I don't pay for Google ads, but that would help boost my rankings a little bit. I've just tried to focus on organic approaches to get to that, because I don't want to spend a whole lot of money and just like throw it out the window. You know what I mean? I would much rather focus where that money's going, so that way I can actually get some results out of it. So again, A/B testing is important. I like having a lead time, especially for bigger shows. I think for these monthly shows, having a couple of weeks is not too bad. You know, doing the shows that put a quirk in it and stuff. You know, we're selling 30, 40 tickets per show. Like, you know, it's not bad. I think it's pretty doable to do that for that venue. It's also giving me a place that I could potentially be bad if I wanted to. Like if I had something that's like really untested that I want to try, it's giving me an outlet of, because like if someone's paying me big money to come do their conference and do like a keynote,
you want to make sure that you give.
I want it to be solid.
Yeah.
I want it to be the A material.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then in the Magic and Merlot, not saying that I'm not looking to do a great job.
Yeah,
but at
you
the
have
same
a little
time,
bit
I
more.
can get that B and C stuff in there and try to bring it up to an A.
Well, that's what I do with hosting. I mean, I'm hosting. I try out my stuff there. Like, I'm not giving, because at the end of the year, I would do a headlining set.
Yeah.
So the goal is to build enough to redo 30 minutes.
Sure.
You know? But ultimately my idea is like, I brought these guys to be funny.
Yeah.
I'm introducing you to my friends.
Yeah.
And then, but typically what happens is you, like you said, you get to work over some material, you get to talk to them and kind of get a feel for stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, here's my funny friends. You know, you bring these guys in.
I think that's great. Like, because again, you're finding ways to capture shows at least, and you're getting the flight time and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most important aspect of it. But then I think the next thing, as far as just marketing in general goes, like you're building a brand around yourself, whether you're conscious of that or not.
Yeah.
You're building a brand around yourself, and you are creating perceptions for yourself from other people, which I think are positive. Like everything I see you post seems very happy, positive, everything like that. Like you seem like a very likable. I know you are a likable guy, but I'm saying
from that,
but through your advertising too, I think
Right.
you're conveying that you're
from
like
that
guy.
perspective,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's a
definitely.
personality, like you're saying. Like you put yourself in it, it shows.
Absolutely,
Yeah, and I think that's what you're really selling.
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I'd love everything that you're saying too. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. Right? I had grandparents as parents, so it was tough. I know all that's wrong with me. What my luck has come from. I'm very good at conversation, like being and making people feel comfortable quickly.
Yeah.
Because I'm an electrician. I'm in people's homes. You can't be in somebody's home and have them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So you like have to, hey, I'm the safe person to be here. And so I bring that. It's easy to bring that to the stage because I'm constantly doing it, and I do a sales pitch whenever I am at their house. Like, hey, I'm an electrician. That's how long I've been doing it. And then you kind of like go through your stuff, and then you have jokes that you say along with that pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I really think that I kind of put that together. But my luck has been shaking hands. Like I'll go to somebody's house or I'll go to a business. Like, hey, I'm Nick Campbell. If you guys, and then I put it under the idea of like, hey, we can do this together. We can make comedy stronger in Oklahoma if you just let me hang this flyer in your break room.
Yeah.
And then if you guys come out, I'll shout you out.
Yeah.
And so I haven't had as much time lately just because of work. And like you said, the balance is hard.
Yeah. I think the other thing you could be doing right now, though, since you're already telling people about your comedy shows, since you're already trying to post your flyers in places, I'm sure there's clients that you work with on the electrical side of your whole world. I think there's clients that you probably work with right now that you could even offer group discounts to. So for like the Put a Cork in It shows where you're already capturing 100% of the door. How much is your ticket price on that?
It's 15 advance, 20 at the door.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
It's good that you're encouraging pre-sales with the $15.
Yeah.
That part's great. I can give you another one. I think you should encourage pre-sales like you're already doing, but have that $20 be day of, and then have it more expensive if you actually wait to buy at the door. Because if you're cognizant of people, oh well, they said they're gonna come, that kind of thing. I think you're encouraging some skin in the game if you can have an escalating tiered pricing kind of thing.
Now here's what I do, and I've found it to be successful, is when they get there, I put the QR code up there too.
Yeah.
Right? So the QR code with the flyers behind me. I tell them it's $20 if you want to pay cash, or $15 if you want to pay with the QR code. So no matter what, it's going to be $15 if you show up. But then I capture their email.
Yeah.
And then at the end, every month, I shoot them an email.
Do you
about,
capture through Eventbrite as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I now also have.
A pixel.
I haven't messed with that much,
Okay.
just because I haven't been able to chase it down.
Yeah.
But no, I have an email list from Campbell and Son Electric because they're our sponsors. It's just me. I'm sponsoring me. But what I do is I ask the people if they are interested. I can tag them with my program that I use for that company.
Yeah.
And then I have an email list of people from there that I transfer over.
Yeah.
If I can.
So on Eventbrite, you can create a discount code.
Yeah.
So if I were you, especially you mentioned you have like the apartments and stuff like that. They probably have staff and things like that work in those apartments. So if I were you, I would pitch them and be like, hey, if you want to bring 10 people to the show or whatever, or 5 people, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but like I'll give you 10% off, 15% off, whatever. Because in the grand scheme of things, that's not really going to hurt your overall money grab on that.
That'd be like 5 or 10 people that wouldn't have been there at all otherwise.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a big
so
get.
I'm trying to build relationships right now is wine clubs.
That's a good idea.
Because with Magic and Merlot, you get a glass of wine. It's at a wine bar. I'm trying to create an experience out of it. So right now I'm trying to reach out to these different clubs.
That's
because there's several.
I had that idea. I thought about this like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, and the only club I could think of was like, well, I was thinking about that idea was like clubs or something where it's like you can get a group of people, like a group of women that are all friends. It's like they would love to all go to a comedy show together. Yep. It's harder to get like 1 or 2 of them. But if you got all of them, it's like, oh, they're all going together, then they're all going to want to go. Yep. But the only club I could think of was like a book club. I was like, how do you reach out to book clubs?
they have a club for everything. So
it's Oprah.
But you know what I mean? But the wine clubs, I mean, there are opportunities like that. And if you could reach out to those people and be like, here's a discount, group discount, that's a great idea.
Because it's not going to really hurt your overall profitability at the end of the day. Like you could either sell 20 tickets at what you want to sell them at, or you could sell those 20 tickets plus an additional 20 tickets at a reduced cost. You still make more money.
For me, it's packing the house. The
Yeah.
more people we got,
absolutely.
I want the experience. My dad, I say it like this. My dad used to go fishing every weekend. He spent tons of money. He might not catch nothing, but he had a smile on his face when he came home. And for me, it's like I'm putting money into this to this is my hobby.
Yeah.
Ideally, we want to grow it to something, and it'll get there. But like with my business, you got to plant a seed.
Yep.
And if I show up at your house and the only problem is a GFI that I have to reset, I'm not going to charge you. I'm going to be like, hey, man, give me a good review, and the next time, use me. I want to be your electrician.
Yeah.
So that way they don't feel like they got. And then I'm actually hey, I want to be your electrician forever.
Yeah.
And the same thing is with comedy is like, hey, I want you to come in the room, see what we do, because I know it has value.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
So I kind of have a similar philosophy on because I do work that day job. I love my day job. Like I legitimately love my job. But I also love doing shows and taking on as much as I can with that. And I do a lot of private party kind of stuff. So my bread and butter right now is not just selling tickets, which is actually kind of nice, because selling tickets can be exhausting sometimes. So I really like capturing those corporate clients, the private parties, weddings, whatever.
Yeah, because you don't have to sell any tickets. You just show up. The audience is there.
Yeah.
Flat rate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could get into the weeds on that too, but I have a tiered strategy for that as well.
Okay,
so I'm trying to get them to fall in the middle. So I have a low option, a mid option, and a high option. So I try to get them to fall in the middle on average. And,
I've heard
that's what I do for my electrical.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the same stuff, man. Like you just gotta apply it in different ways.
Yeah,
I actually have an idea for my own podcast because I read a lot of books and I'm not really into like Harry Potter. Like I love Harry Potter, but like I'm not really into fiction, all that much. I read a lot of business books,
nonfiction.
Marketing,
That's like
leadership.
me. I've got a whole stack of nonfiction books. I would never touch it. I'd barely touch the nonfiction books, but I would never touch a real fiction book.
Well, so I read 74 books last year.
Yeah.
The goal this year is to try to hit 100.
Nice.
I'm literally on the way here. I'm listening to an audio book about creativity, that kind of thing. So I'm always kind of thinking about that. So my idea for the podcast that I had is all these books that I'm reading, trying to find ways to apply them to magic, right?
Oh, okay.
Nice. To being a performer, selling tickets, whatever,
Somewhat. I mean, that was somewhat my inspiration for getting into this podcast. And it's like I was listening to a ton of podcasts and learning a lot about myself and try to how to take care of myself, like mentally and mental health and stuff. And not only that, I love marketing too. I'm always thinking about it. We're always talking about business since he started his business, if not before then. But it's like I'm always fascinated about that. So that's kind of a little bit of my inspiration was for this podcast was to discuss this kind of stuff and share it with people. Hopefully people can learn and take some of these ideas and apply them to what they do.
How much of this like goes out into comedy performer community, whatever?
What do you mean, like the
what's your viewership like?
Oh yeah, it's mostly comedians.
Mostly comedians.
I mean, I try really hard to get more of the music community in because I'm a musician, but it's just like we just don't do enough of music content really. I mean, we have most of our guests have been comics
But you had Cage on here.
Yeah, I know. That's why it's like I want to get more people like that just to get more different. But I don't know. A lot of people. I mean, it's mostly just local people, though. I think
So Cage is with Sativa Prophets. Did he talk much about that?
No, actually, that was one of the things that I'd forgotten that he was even a part of. So we didn't even talk about it at all. But I'll have him back on eventually because he was. We did like a 3-hour podcast. It was incredible.
Yeah. So fun fact. Back in the day, I used to work at Texas Roadhouse.
Okay.
Right. I was doing magic table to table whenever I was in high school. And then I was also working at the AMC Theater at Crossroads Mall, not the Dollar Theater, but the AMC. I was working at that theater. I got fired from that theater, first job I ever got fired from. Good times. And I was still doing magic at the Texas Roadhouse right there. And I informed them that I just got fired, and I was only doing magic once a week at that Texas Roadhouse, and I was only working for a meal and tips. And so I was like, I really need to like capture some extra money, and they hired me in the kitchen. Mike Huckwheat from Sativa Prophets, he worked at that at that Texas Roadhouse. That's whenever I first met him. Was there. And he was always rapping and stuff.
Yeah.
Like Sativa Prophets wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah,
but he was always rapping and stuff. And there used to be this place in the Paseo called Bora Bora.
Yeah.
Oh, snap. And then they turned they turned into Paseo Underground. Yeah. So like I hit them up to do a variety show because at that point I knew some comedians and different people in bands and stuff because I had been doing all those shows from the MySpace days. And so I talked Mike into doing some actual recording and putting beats out and stuff. And their first shows, not as Sativa Prophets just yet, but their very first shows were at Bora Bora.
So you're saying that you're responsible for the Sativa Prophets?
No. Not even close. All those dudes are so ridiculously talented.
But no, that's awesome.
Not even a little bit. But so they started off and they were calling themselves like something. I think they started off with like Flowetry, and then they found out that was a thing already. And then they moved into calling themselves Neighborhood, and then the band the Sweater Weather song, the band Neighborhood came out, and they were getting really popular. So they transitioned out of that and went Sativa Prophets. And then some folks kind of dropped out, and new folks came in like Mars and Cage and. Rod Malone actually was kind of one of the people that came into with Sativa Prophets, but he used to be in a band back in like a hip hop kind of thing called The Rumor back in the day. That was really awesome. But anyway, so that's my experience.
That's awesome.
Knowing Cage is like
guys.
my experience with running around with the Sativa Prophets and stuff.
That's great.
Like it's just kind of crazy how small of a world it is, and now he's doing like crazy awesome things.
That's why. I've known about him since those days because I've seen the Sativa Prophets perform. I guess they haven't been around for a little while now.
They're talking about doing a show soon.
But like it was like pre-pandemic for sure. And that was the first time I'd met Cage, and then I'd run into him at least a few times a year, at Paseo or wherever. So it's like we've always kind of not been like close friends or anything, but known each other and always talk to each other when we see each other. So
I
had him on.
Love hanging out with those dudes.
He was awesome, like as far as very just talented and like hardworking, just in that same boat of all of us, just trying to make something of ourselves here.
I think those kinds of conversations though are so worth the energy and investment. And things like I think learning from other people is what it's really all about, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have anything to hide, and I think most people that's true as well. Like I don't think there's any like golden key that you're going to be able to insert.
That's the thing. If anybody's trying to hide the secret to their success, it doesn't even matter because even if they told, that's why I think it's like. I could tell you exactly how I did something to be successful, and you could try to do it and it not work at all.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't even matter. Like if you tell, or I think that the opposite could be true also. It's like you could talk about how you failed at something, and then it could give somebody an idea to go and make it work. So
100%.
I think it's important to talk about all this stuff as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's tons of different ways to do it, and I've heard similar kind of sentiments that you just had, where it's like you could try to do it this way, but it's probably not going to work. You think about how quickly things evolve. You know, like MySpace isn't a thing anymore.
Right.
There's a lot of like bands and celebrities and stuff that don't manage their
It's like
personal
that, so that
personal
approach
accounts anymore.
Yeah.
So like it's harder to contact people again. You know, even as connected as we all are, it's still kind of harder in some ways to contact these people at any sort of reliable rate. So I mean, it's still a challenge no matter what. It's just a new challenge comparatively to what it used to be. There used to be so much gatekeeping because you only could go to like an agency if you wanted to try to contact XYZ.
I mean,
person.
now it's like we were talking about earlier. It was like just the discovery of the internet changed so much.
Absolutely.
Just as far as like there was nowhere for you to even learn magic for a long. I mean, society even you had to learn from someone else or get a box that taught you 200 tricks. I mean, that was the only option. Now it's like you can go on the internet and learn anything you want and not even need a degree or not pay for any of it. Even like I took like probably 3 or 4 years of YouTube classes, not even a class, but like I just taught myself music production in like 3 years for free, and just like
or
just
video editing, or whatever.
That too.
I think that's the way to do it. So I mentioned that I'm finishing my bachelor's right now. It is not because I necessarily value the piece of paper.
Right.
It's because I value the perception that the piece of paper gives me from potential employers.
Right.
My philosophy about like the day job side of things, again, I love my day job. However, if magic ever got to the point where I can no longer keep a day job and do that at the same time, I'm gonna let go of the day job. Right. So my kind of philosophy on it is I'm gonna keep doing all the things until it is not financially feasible anymore to keep the day job.
Or just like where you literally don't have time for everything anymore. I mean, that's kind of the goal, I think.
This episode of Rhythm Wit was brought to you by Campbell & Son Electric, Oklahoma City's trusted one-truck electrical contractor with over 20 years of experience in the field. Whether it's upgrading your home's electrical service, troubleshooting issues, or tackling small commercial projects, Campbell & Son Electric delivers top-notch work with care and attention you'd expect from a family business. Servicing areas like Del City, Edmond, Yukon, Mustang, and beyond, they're your go-to for reliable expert service. Need help with your next project? Visit CampbellandSonElectric.com today and get it done right the first time. Campbell & Son Electric, brightening Oklahoma, one wire at a time.
So the ultimate goal for me right now is to do my own special, but I kind of want to like do it all myself. Like I want to obviously the conception of it all, and I'm trying to do a little more, again, adding my own kind of stuff to it. So that's the goal right now, is to get to the point to making a special. So.
Yeah, nice, man. I think you're on your way.
Fingers crossed.
For sure, man.
Fingers crossed.
I think it's a matter of time.
I hope so.
Based on what I'm seeing, Like I said, I mean, you did Merlot and Magic, you did the Spirits and Sorcery, and you put on tons of shows. I mean, something that I recognize is as soon as putting on shows wasn't that hard.
No.
When it comes down to it, you're just organizing a bunch of stuff.
No. It's literally like reaching out to people and then making it happen.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Being there when you're supposed to.
Selling tickets can be hard.
That's the hardest part.
But like, and you're also competing with, YouTube. You're competing with Netflix.
Everything.
All that. You're getting people out of the house is the hard part.
That's something that I've been thinking a lot about too. It's just like we compete with everything. Video games. People want to stay home and not go out and experience the world anymore.
But we are a unique experience.
Yeah.
Like it's I think it's one of the, I mean, between Magic, that's why the comedy of Magic is so similar. It's very, we can't do it without you.
Yeah.
And whenever people are there, you feel connected.
Yeah. I tried virtual shows during COVID. It's a totally different vibe, dude. Like, it's so hard because, I'm doing them on Zoom and things like that. It's so hard to experience that same type of connection with somebody in that sort of environment. I found it so challenging because, like, so I used to sell cars. That was my day job before, and then I was so like fed up with the job myself. Like I was in such a depressive state. I literally I walked into my manager's office and I was like, "Hey man, I'm going to lunch. Never coming back. See you later." And I quit just like that, and never looked back. And my whole mission was that I was going to make magic successful at the time. So I was doing like DoorDash and Uber Eats and things like that to make ends meet. But then I was also working on trying to establish connections and book shows and all that. And then Brad Chad was running the Paramount Room at the time, and I organized a lunch date with him, and I talked him into letting me do a monthly show there, and so it was called The Sorcerer and the Comedian, so I was getting all my comedian buddies to come do like opening, like 20-minute spots.
Was that the first type of show you started producing? Was that the first
at
time
that
you did
scale?
it?
Yeah. So it's now Dead Centers, but there's that screening room downstairs of the Paramount Room. And so that holds like 75 people, and we got to the point where we were selling that out. And so then we moved upstairs to the big banquet room, which is closer to about 200 people, and we were hitting like 130 pretty consistently up there.
That's great.
Month to month. And I would bring in a new Adrian Corwin or whoever. Like I'd bring in a new comedian to come do that, and that was kind of the impetus of I think what I'm doing now is kind of learning how to market the show and find interesting ways. And you mentioned the experience of it all. Like I do think attending a live performance in general is a worthwhile experience to go. Like I love going to concerts. I love going to comedy shows, things like that. I do think the more experiential kind of stuff is kind of what has been drawing people as you got Meow Wolf, Factory Obscura, things like that. So I'm personally also trying to think of ways to incorporate almost like installment art kind of things
how to make
into
it
the magic
more
world.
Because it's saying that something I've heard about lately, something that I think is changing like our society wise, like for like so many malls are closing everywhere because everybody's doing online shopping and all this stuff. But like something that certain districts, and I think it's like in California or somewhere, there's like certain districts that are like turning these areas of town into more of like an experience type based entertainment. Like it's not like stuff that you have to go towards. And I think that is something that society is looking for more these days, is like that type of something that's a once in a lifetime opportunity type thing that you have to go toward to see that
authenticity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's like immersive. You know what I mean? I think that's more because you can't experience that even if you have like the greatest movie ever on Netflix. It's like it's still just a screen on your wall.
Sure.
It's not like you can go and experience, like you said, Meow Wolf and Factory Obscura.
Well, they're
that's
all
like truly unique. And
TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff, it's secondhand experience. It's not even through your purview, and even the frame of it obscures the truth. So it's a false connection, and it's not bad. I mean, like you said, YouTube, it brings us a lot of other things. We can get connected quick. We can talk to people. We can let people know about this stuff. But when you go out to comedy, I think that's what it did for me. Is it's like, this is real. There's you can't get away from it. The room is what it is, and then that guy's doing a tight line walk. And I think obviously magic is the same way.
Absolutely. I think again, like that's the hardest part, getting people out of the house and finding ways to draw them into that. So I guess that's really what the marketing is all about, right? Is like demonstrating why you need to get off the couch.
Well, that's why I asked Dave. I mean, back in the day, he would take pictures. It's like, this is FOMO. I'm creating. I'm trying to get people to go, oh, I wish I would have went to that. And then ideally they do. A lot of times.
And see, that's the with the cups picture from my buddy Cassidy and stuff. Like that's part of the reason why I think that picture is like so iconic, is because there's such like a visual story being told by that one photo. So like that's the other thing that I was thinking about is okay, what do I need to do especially after seeing the photos that you got. I was thinking about it, and I was like, all right, what do I need to do to just create awesome stills that you're just like, well, I want to know what the fuck happened there. Like
that's
how
a good idea.
How do you incorporate that? And I think comedy is going to be a little harder because a lot of it's you standing there being like,
that's why I do struggle.
That's why comedy on the spot.
Sometimes,
we do that one and we release it, and then and that's the beauty of it, is that we don't burn material. I've actually gotten a lot of material off of it. But we don't burn material, and then we release it. Then people can see it. Everybody releases clips too, because we give clips away to the comedians. So it's like it almost does better than the showcase, because the showcase is so normalized. But where were we? What were you saying?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I can't remember. I lost my train of thought.
Well, do you want to? Are you going to show us some stuff?
I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all I brought was a deck of cards. Do you have like a very common card to name as like a favorite card is like the Ace of Spades or the Queen of Hearts or something like that? Do you have like maybe a not terribly common favorite card?
2 of clubs.
2 of clubs. Okay, so I'll kind of show you through here, and the camera can see. Oh, it's impressive. The 2 of clubs was the first one. It would be different if it was like deeper down, because you got all the other 2s that are there. 2 of hearts. That's pretty impressive that the 2 of clubs was the first one.
The first 2, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the first.
Right.
First, yeah.
The first 2 that showed up was 2 of clubs.
Pretty interesting. I took a chance though and tried to memorize a little bit of the order of the deck just then, so I can do a thing that's called shuffle tracking. Have you ever heard of shuffle tracking? So in poker rooms back in the day, whenever you had like real gambling going on, you'd have a card cheat every now and then. But the goal of a card cheat is to be undetectable, right? Unlike with Magic, where you're like, hey, look at this thing, that I spent a lot of time in my bedroom on. Your goal with being a card cheat is to be totally unnoticed, right? So that way you can cheat at poker games and things. So they would do really, really sneaky things. One of them is shuffle tracking. So you can do like that, where you follow along where the cards are, and then at any time you can cut, and then you land on whatever card you want. In this case, the 2 of hearts. So I can do it again.
All right.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. You can also do it in the hands, and your camera back here might actually catch that a little bit here. So if you follow, are you able to zoom in at all on that?
I can do, here's your camera, or you can do that camera actually. So this one will show it.
Okay. Yeah. So you can kind of follow it, and you can see all those cards riffle off. I didn't actually look that time. I was just watching. Okay. So you can see all those cards riffle off, and then 2 of spades is right there.
So you just recognize it, and then
you're just seeing it fall off the thumbs. So you said 2 of clubs though, right? So like kind of lame so far, but. So you can do it there, and actually, there's another technique. Do you know what a crimp is? So I can actually put what's called a crimp into the card. So if I, I think I got it. So what I tried to do is in the 2 of clubs just now, I tried to put a crimp in. So if you just cut off a group of cards and put them to the side. Perfect, and so there. So we've already got these 2. So with a crimp, basically what it is a small bend in the card. So that way, hopefully, the idea is that it'll be cut to, or I can follow it in the stack. So what I tried to do is I tried to put a crimp in this card, and it's kind of undetectable, but you can kind of see the edge there. So that should be the 2 of clubs if I did it correctly. Yeah. Cool.
Oh,
cool.
All right.
Okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. Again, your goal is to be undetectable whenever you're cheating at poker games, and sometimes somebody else is going to cut the deck, right? So there's another technique in cheating that's called palming. Have you ever heard of palming before? The camera here. So this is what palming is here. Okay. So the idea is that you can't see it, but if I get kind of close, you can kind of see the card through my fingers a little bit. So what I've been working on is a technique that's called the invisible palm, because you get these things called windows. So it's kind of hard to see on camera right now, but you can actually see the light through my fingers there. So sometimes you actually get little peeks into there. So you can see okay here. So we'll take these 3 here, and if you palm one like normal, you can crush it and turn it invisible like that. And then that way, at any time, you can lay it down in your hand.
Do that again.
I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
You had some stuff from the last
I'm a
show
child.
that just blew me away with the card tricks and disappearing, because you were putting them all over the place. You're like, it's great.
So we'll do these 2. Ready? So palm, turn invisible, lay it down.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. For that trick, how long?
It's a long time. This part actually took a little longer, because the hardest part is once you get down to the last one and you have nowhere to hide anymore, right? So it goes here. Oh, sorry. Hold on. A little bit. Okay. Try to just get enough pressure on it.
Incredible.
3 years old.
It's like this is definitely the closest that I've seen you do these tricks before, and it's like I still can't see. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
can't
it's
see it
still
at all.
impossible.
Yeah, that's
to
really
tell.
good.
Good.
So it's like usually I'm like pretty far away from you up on
Yeah.
the stage, so it's like it still looks great, but it's like I'm always like, where did it go? Where?
Yeah, and that's
it's
one
so
of like
cool.
the things that I sell to people because
Yeah.
sometimes I get picked up to go do like a cocktail hour or something like that, and I'll just hit people and do close up
Right,
stuff. Or
yeah.
Sometimes I'm hired to do my stage show or whatever, So it all just kind of depends, but yeah.
Cool. Would you say like cards are your favorite thing to play with?
It's
as far
definitely
as-
the easiest thing to carry
Yeah,
around. It's
yeah.
also kind of my fidget. I've been this whole time
Yeah.
I've just been fiddling
Always
with my
have
deck
'em.
under the table. So I mean, like I'll sit there and I'll do
Yeah,
cuts
just-
and shuffles and stuff.
That's cool.
Just keep the dexterity up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but it's kind of I like that too. I used to play with cards a lot, just
Yep.
shuffling and stuff. Just
Yep.
'cause I like I don't know. It just feels good to have to do.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. It's something, but I think it's definitely something in my brain that's. I always need to be fidgeting, and
Can you do that again?
I wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
Jesus.
What the hell? That like literally changed before your eyes.
Yeah, now I see why they didn't want that seance.
Yeah. So we did the seance again this last year,
Yeah.
and had a really good turnout, and did a couple of things that were really innovative within a seance. Like
Yeah.
nobody's been doing that kind of stuff before.
Yeah, that's
so.
because that's always been like a kind of in my mind. It's like that is kind of a magic trick.
It
the
is,
whole as
yeah.
a game, as a thing.
I did a disclaimer at the beginning of before we go into. So we do a kind of like a normal magic show, and then we do an intermission. So right prior to the intermission, I did a disclaimer, and I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
so just so you know, there's a seance coming up. This seance is magic tricks.
Yeah.
But after I finish this little disclaimer, I will no longer refer to them as magic tricks.
Yeah.
From what you see from this point forward, we're going to play with ghosts. And then intermission.
Yeah.
Okay. And so at that point we're pumping in some creepy music, just kind of setting an eerie kind of tone. And then we go into the seance side of things. And I mean, there were candles that lit themselves on fire and like, all this crazy stuff. And there was like a light bulb that lit up and just crazy stuff.
Without being plugged in anything.
Yeah. like just crazy things happening all around us. And I did this piece where I entered the spirit realm. It was the concept. And so my partner with that show, Solomon Strauss, he acted as like a medium sort of thing. And so he guided me into this spirit world and kind of put me into a meditative state. And part of what happens with that meditative state is it's almost like you die going into that world of things. And so we had a nurse from the audience taking my pulse the whole time. And then my pulse stops for about 3 minutes while I'm there
Under the
just,
trance,
cocked over, dead. And then he like brings me back into the real world and stuff, and then we go into some more like really really creepy things. So doing the piece with the pulse stopping and stuff, like that's pretty innovative in terms of what normally happens
cool.
in like a seance show. It's pretty different.
It reminds me of like hypnotism and stuff. Does that have anything to do with like I don't know, like mentalist? That's like a mind tricks, right?
It is kind of in the same world.
Yeah,
as
it's
like a
like I don't know.
mentalist.
I mean, I've always been fascinated by hypnotism, but I think that there's some deeper psychological things going on with some of that stuff.
Sure, and it's also like a person's willingness to
Right.
play.
Yeah.
With whenever it comes to hypnotism, like if you think about, if you've ever been to like a hypnotism show before,
Right.
They cull 20, 30 people to come like backstage, and then they do tests.
Yeah.
And then those
Yeah,
tests
I've heard about. I've seen
determine
that.
your ability to
the hypnotized
be
ability.
hypnotized. So like, have you ever done this thing before? Like take your hands like this, and you're gonna clasp your fingers together. You're gonna take your index fingers just like that. Okay, so now this test, like you watch the gap that's between your fingers currently. So there's no gap between your fingers right now. So I want you to lock that image in your mind of there not being any gaps between your fingers. Okay, then I want you to pull your fingers apart, and then I want you to focus on closing that gap without actually doing anything with your fingers. So imagine that your fingers are just attracted to one another, like you can't keep them apart. And
he's doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
Is that one of the hypnotized tricks?
So it's like a precursor sort of thing to
I know
to
the
induction.
eyelid one. There's an eyelid
Yeah.
one that I've tried.
So there's some
learned
things you
about.
can do as well, like messing with people's persistence of vision and things like that. So there's all sorts of different ploys that go into that. But at the end of the day, so like it worked really well with you doing the magnetic fingers kind of thing. So it's possible that you're just very open to suggestions.
Yeah.
And you're willing to play, right? You mentioned with the magic, like you're like, I'm a 3-year-old again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that's honestly what brings me the most joy out of it. Like I love coming up with something new and just nailing it and having a great time with it and stuff and presenting something that's original. I love doing that more than anything in this world. But the experience is what creates that, right? So like, I mean, part of what I advertise is that I'm on a mission to spread joy and wonder. And I think who is the most apt to experience joy and wonder as a child. And so really I want to draw out that child in you, you know, and I don't think it matters if you are 10 years old or 90 years old. There's ways that we can make that happen. And for a moment, reality doesn't exist anymore, right? I'm just doing tricks. It's all fake. There's techniques involved. There's acting involved, subterfuge. Like the whole bit that I just did for you a little bit ago. Like if you knew how much of that was just acting and storytelling and things like that, and how little of it was like really complicated sleight of hand, you would probably be unimpressed.
Yeah, and then it wouldn't be fun anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, and some people are very analytical. They look at it like a puzzle.
That's what I was going to ask was like, what do you do? How many times has there been like that person that just is not impressed? Or is that just, you can always get them to that level, even like the most skeptical person?
There's typically always something that you can do for someone that'll hit them where they're not expecting
crack a smile.
Now there are some people that are just very reserved, and it's really hard to draw out the kind of reactions that you might want to get from them. There are definitely folks like that, but for the most part, like it's not always like, you know, they're not impressed or something. Yeah. For the most part, they could just like not be very emotive.
Right. Yeah. That too. Yeah.
So it all, again, there's layers to all of it, and there's no correct way to respond to any of it and stuff. So like, you know, obviously you want to have those David Blaine moments of people running away, calling him the devil and stuff. But
that's the goal.
That doesn't always happen, you know. Yeah. Like I got banned in high school from doing Magic in the Commons over in Del City. I got banned
because people were freaked out.
Yeah, because I would just draw these big crowds and thought people were fighting. So
really?
you just have this big circle of people around me, and then they'd be like,
just a white guy with cards.
So the senior principal, he was like, "Yeah, you can't do that in the Commons anymore." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And as it turns out, he just didn't really like Magic all that much. He thought it was childish.
He just didn't like fun.
And I think that's true. But he just thought it was kind of childish and stuff. And then I showed him a trick one day, and he's like, "I'll do that again." I was like, "You don't like Magic," and I walked away.
Get him, dude.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. Let the art show itself. That's a beautiful that you have a story about. About the government holding back your magic. Yeah, dude.
Fuck the man.
Thank God Thank you didn't listen to him.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Know? Come on, where would you be?
Man, if I listened to anybody.
A lot of it, what it sounds to me, and like anything, there's this trust factor. There's a factor of just like, you know, and similar to like comedians putting on their persona, I think there's a way, something that I've kind of gotten into too, is it is a magic trick.
Yeah.
Is that I'm not this character that hates
kayfabe.
Right, yeah.
Kayfabe. You watch wrestling?
No.
Not really. No.
Okay.
It's one of those. I was trying to tell him about wrestling lingo a few weeks ago.
So professional wrestlers like WWE and stuff like that, there's a thing called kayfabe, and it really comes from like Japan, but essentially, their character is who they are, right? And what kayfabe is them not breaking character. So like, Stone Cold Steve Austin, everywhere he goes, he's Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not just Steve. Everywhere he goes, he's that guy. And so he's got a character that he's upholding with that whole thing. So if his goal is to, he's kind of like a dick, in his character. That's just kind of how he acts all the time. Hulk Hogan is another good example of that. If you saw Hulk Hogan waking up from a nap and he's still kind of, that's not, oh yeah, brother. Like you expect that out of him.
It takes the magic away a little
Ripping
bit.
his shirt off.
Yeah.
So the kayfabe side of it is never dropping that character. So like we talked about this a little bit too. I actually kind of consider myself a little bit of an introvert, and that's primarily because I'm very comfortable just like kind of doing stuff on my own,
by yourself,
and sitting there for 10 hours editing a video or whatever. Like I'm totally good with all of that, and just not talking to anybody. But then like, whenever I perform, I think it is myself, but in a way it's kind of a character.
It's a different part of yourself.
Yeah,
I think,
it's me times 10 essentially.
Right, yeah.
Like it's a sliver of my personality that I'm amplifying.
Yeah.
Because like obviously I'm not just like running around making dick jokes all the time. So
Yeah. I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day. I agree wholeheartedly. Because that is me. That is you. You get up there.
That's what I think. Is like I think Nick is more like the John Cena or like the Stone Cold. Like you're always who you are. You're not really any different on stage, I think.
Well, I'm not.
So with your clients, you're like, hey, do you ever wish that prostitution was legal?
I guess certain things you talk about.
Doing that.
Certain things you talk about. I guess you're right about that.
That's how you lose customers.
but you are fairly clean on stage.
I am fairly clean. I am fairly clean. I'm clean in life.
Yeah,
I think
that's what I mean. It's like even you would tell most of the same jokes to an old grandma that you're going to do electricity. Versus what
100%
on stage also.
But I also there's like you said, even whenever I do that prostitution joke, there is like I do have one.
I remember it.
It's like, that good.
Exactly.
It's like, but no, it's
the shocking
it's
part
so
of it.
silly. That it's like you can't. That's why it works for me because I'll allow myself to say it. But I don't like talking about like my sexual stuff with Liz or like most people will go. And I personally don't really like going that way just because it's like, well, I don't like hearing that in my. I'm a big fan of Sinbad, Louis Anderson, but I love Louis C.K. but where my personality aligns, where it feels right, is not going in those places. But I'll go other places where I'm like, somebody come steal my kid, or I worked on this person's electrical house, like different, like me being a silly goose. That's where I like being, But that being said, I'm not going around telling people that my kids suck in real life.
Yeah.
That's how you get them taken away. But but that, you see what I'm saying? But I mean, amplifying basically pain points in my life and saying things that other people aren't willing to say.
Yeah,
and
but they're probably thinking.
Personifying what they are, like you said, are thinking. Or this tortured father.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of where that trick I was telling you about with the words, the shit my daughter says thing. Like that's kind of how that all sprouted is like, she's saying all these words and I'm like Googling them and like, what? Gap means nice butt? Like, come on, man.
You guys don't even try
Where
it
do you even
anymore.
find how did that?
Because it's supposed to be like, God damn.
Okay.
I love that now.
Well,
see, that's the thing. It's exclusionary. Those words are intended to be exclusionary.
Absolutely.
You're not supposed to know.
Absolutely. But it makes me feel very old.
Yeah, as it should.
But
that's the whole point.
But the thing is,
man.
like
How old are
everyone.
you?
I'll be 34 next month.
Okay, yeah. You're getting there.
So, but there's tons of like people in their 30s and 40s that are like going around like just confused by this new slang and all this stuff. So it's like when you're making a joke about it, it's like you're touching on all those people's thoughts too, because it's like, we're all frustrated with this.
Because we don't know. As older people, do we have the time? I remember whenever I told my dad, my grandpa, I was like, "That's cool." He's like, "What does that mean?" Whenever I was like 6, and he said cool the rest of his life. He never not said cool. At 16, the Thong Song came out, he's never hummed any of those bars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he knew what a thong was. I don't know. But no, I have no point of reference because I mean I think that kids have more time to be able to do that, and it is like signaling. It's like
it's always about like trying to find your own identity in the world. I think. I mean, that's all any of this that kind of stuff is. I think to a point, just because growing up, you want to find who you are and where you fit in. So it's like you want to create a new thing or something, be something different than what you see too.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah. But
you guys get. I feel like this was one of the best conversations that I've ever had in front of Magic. That was
in front of Magic.
In front of Magic. In front of me. Yeah, that was awesome.
With Magic.
With Magic involved. Yeah, I know you don't get to see just Magic.
Yeah.
Unless I'm hanging out with John Shack.
Yeah. I was like, I've been lucky to be. I've gotten to do your show last. What was that? A couple weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And then so I've seen you quite a bit, which is like that's why I love my job as a photographer now. It's just like getting to see people, even if I've seen you before, it's like just seeing it more.
Yeah.
It's like those tricks. It's like I've seen you do. Like I really think the Rubik's Cube stuff. That's what I wanted to tell you. That stuff was really cool because I've seen you do some Rubik's Cube stuff you did here at the party. It's just like that stuff from last week was just next level. It was really fun.
Constant improvement, man. It's constantly just trying to fine tune.
Yeah, I feel like you're taking your stuff and just making it even bigger and better each time I see you.
Trying really hard. I try to be, a duck on top of water, but my feet are going.
Right. Yeah. I like that for sure.
Yeah. Well, you can see it. You can see it, man. I looked you up. I went through all your stuff. I stalked you online.
Nick always says a lot.
I like it.
Yeah, and I'm highly impressed.
I sent you presents.
Yeah, did you? It must have been the seance.
So yeah, do you want to shout out where people can find your stuff and like any shows? I know you got the one next month coming up. You want to shout out and tell people about?
Yeah, so like right now, kind of public shows. Right, it's mainly going to be the Magic Merlot, which is the first Thursday of every month. I put a Cork in it in Bricktown, OKC.
Nice.
So we start that show at 7. It runs about an hour. Tickets are $25. You get a free glass of wine. Allegedly free,
complimentary.
So I ran an ad and I was calling the glass of wine complimentary. And some lady commented on that and she was like, "At $25 a ticket, it's hardly complimentary." And I'm like, "Lady, like,
what about the Magic you're watching?"
Right? Yeah, like how many shows have you been to? Have you been to Bricktown Comedy Club as of lately? Like, how much do you pay for a ticket there?
$40.
And they have a 2-item minimum.
Yeah, you have to
per
buy
person,
stuff.
right? Like I'm not giving you any sort of minimums that you have to meet. Obviously, hopefully you buy more and support the bar and everything. But at the end of the day, you're paying $25 for a ticket that gives you a glass of wine also. So I think that's a pretty good value.
And you changed it to say included with the ticket.
I did change the verbiage just for the Karens.
But
so I did change the verbiage. So first Thursday of every month till the end of the year is what we have booked out so far. Kind of gauging it out. Maybe we change the format or something like that. But like obviously I like working with Put a Cork in it. They're a great establishment. Super nice people, great establishment. They take care of everybody. They've treated me like family since day one.
Yeah.
Like since doing your show, they treated me like family then. Like
shout out Jess and Micah.
Jess and Micah, they're fantastic people, wonderful people. So yeah, that's going on. I got a couple other like public shows that are on the cusp. There's a film festival that's going on in October called the Nitty Gritty Film Fest.
Nice.
I'm hosting that and doing some magic at it and stuff.
Dude.
So just trying to get out there and do all the things. I'm available for private party bookings. www.johnshackmagic.com.
There we go. All your tickets through that website.
Yeah, so I list anything that's public on there. I list the private stuff too, just in case you're like curious about a date. But I list pretty much everything on there and try to keep it as up to date as possible. And so just johnshackmagic.com.
Nice. And you have Instagram? Is that kind of your main?
John Shack Magic on all that, on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube.
Nice.
Fun stuff.
All right. Well,
all right.
Thanks so much for coming and showing us some
tricks.
Thanks
for having me.
Yeah, man.
It's been great. I've had a blast.
Thanks, guys, for listening. We appreciate it. We'll see you at the next one.
Bye.
That was great, man.
Yeah, I've been